6 o'clock, I will call to order the Teaching, Learning, and Student Supports TLSS Committee agenda. First order of business is Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is roll call.
Member Stokes?
Present.
Member Wiggin? Here. Member Cormier?
Here.
Member Keynes?
Present.
Member Pappas?
Here.
Member White?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Next is approval of the November 21st, 2024 minutes.
So moved.
So motions by Ms. Wiggin, second by Eric White. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Next is public comment. If you have anything to say to public for public comment, please come up to is the podium here? Just come up that way. All right, seeing none, I'm going to pause public comment and we will move on to that at the end. Next is general business, administration new courses.
Thank you. This evening, we will be presenting new course proposals for both Rochester Middle School and Spalding High School. The teachers and administration is here to do those presentations. This is really the culmination of work that they've been doing this fall to create new engaging opportunities for our students that are both aligned with our competencies, but also driven by student interest and really trying to continue our work with future learning pathways. So I'm going to get the presentation up and running, but I'll invite Kathy Cotton and I think our
Interest level?
Yep, yeah.
So our first one is a proposal for a credit-bearing advisory class, and Tlss Level has been such an important person in this work.
Just waiting for the technology to catch up.
I think there's one slide before. Okay. So we are coming together for a proposal for the advisory to become a credit-bearing advisory. So we have a curriculum that we're working through. That's career-connected learning. So on Fridays, teachers are working with their advisories to talk about different career-connected learning activities through Zello. And so with that, the proposal is that this would be a pass-fail 0.25 credit that students can earn each year for a culminating 1 credit, elective credit at the end of their 4 years graduating from Spalding. And it would be built off of the work skills competencies. So self-direction, collaboration, and communication would be the competencies that we would be grading on. So impact for other courses and teachers, it's already built into our schedule. So we have advisories on Mondays and Fridays with flex on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. So teachers already have an advisory built into their schedule. For cost, there's currently no cost. The curriculum that we're currently using is Zello. It's a career-connected platform that has 4 distinct lessons for each grade level, and it's currently being paid by the state, and so that's something that we're able to optimize. And the benefits of this is that it is something that would it aligns with our future pathways work that we've already been doing, which then aligns to our strategic planning for career-connected learning. It empowers the students to explore career and college opportunities earlier in their process rather than waiting for their senior year, and to have that be something that they're reflecting on throughout. It allows students of all grade levels to better be prepared for their post-high school plan. So part of this proposal would be that each year they're working on what their goals are for post-high school and what they need to do each year that would be appropriate to kind of get them ready And then this is further supported through research. So the Gallup poll, student poll, shows that students that have career-connected learning experiences, even as few as just one, are twice as likely to be more hopeful about their future. And so by embedding this into a credit-bearing class, students will be able to have kind of that structure that we're already asking them to do.
Do you want to ask questions between?
That's what I was thinking. We don't need any votes, correct?
I believe you need to move these forward to the board for approval.
Do we want to do them separately in case anybody has any concerns, or?
I think we should keep going, we'll hear them all, and then we can vote on them afterwards.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask the committee first if they have any questions, and then I'll go to you guys. But I do think asking questions after each one, because not everybody's presenting on the same ones, correct? So does anybody have any questions on the advisory being a credit? Yes, Mr. Downs?
It goes over all of them. I believe anything that's gonna impact the budget needs to go to finance before this full board.
It would if we,
Yes, if anything, any of these classes that they're bringing forward, this cost, it's just gonna go to finance, that's all I'm saying.
so I think Mr. Cormier wants to know who would be teaching it, so it would be the teachers?
So teachers already have an advisory built into their schedule. So every teacher has an advisory class. We've already been rolling out Zello within the last 2 years, so this is our second year doing the curriculum. But ultimately, up until this point, students haven't been awarded any types of credit. It just, their senior year, it's tied to their senior portfolio. So the goal would be that this gives them a little bit more direction each academic year. So freshman year, they can earn 0.25, but teachers are already doing Zello in their advisories on Fridays.
Okay, yes, Mr. Pappas?
I assume this is also some carrot to do the work, right? So that students like, oh, it's only advisory, I don't need to do it, so now you can
Right,
get
well,
credit
it's
to
a
do it.
reward, right? So it's definitely, it's an important conversation for students to be having on a regular basis anyways, with the goal that they are having conversations with their adults at home, but now they also have some structure within the day that they can be reflecting on what they want to do post-high school. And so it does add a little bit more teeth that if they're able to do their lessons and they do their portfolios, they're able to earn a 0.25 credit. That doesn't impact GPA, it doesn't has any kind of like weight to it, but it's just kind of that cherry on top that can become an elective credit for all 4 years.
And it is quite a bit of work that they actually are doing over the 4 years.
I agree. So some will have to go to finance, but ones that don't will just go to the full board. So I would suggest maybe we do them separately. So does anybody want to make a motion for the proposal for credit bearing advisory class?
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the credit bearing advisory class, or send it to the full board for approval.
So that was motioned by Mr. Pappas, seconded by Mr. Cormier. Any discussion, any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. And next, we have Miss Lauren Desmitz, representing Art Department for mural painting.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So my name's Lauren. I'm one of the team leaders for the art department at Spalding High School. And over the past year, we've been trying to find out different ways to create some more quarter-long classes to offer our students just to help with scheduling needs and to give them more opportunities to try different types of art classes and just get more interest level up in the art department. So we did a survey among our students and we polled them just to see what they were really interested in. And it was like a resounding, like unanimous vote by them all that they really wanted to do mural painting. So we polled all of our classes and all the students kind of picked one or two choices, but this one just landslide got all the rest of them. So we would like to propose to do a quarter-long mural painting class with the students. They would be using all the same competencies that we currently have in the art department. The cost, there would be no difference. It would just be into our budget as a normal class would be. So that won't be any additional cost to do that either. No additional staffing needs either. But I think that it is really exciting that we have a lot of students that really want to do this. We've already worked on a couple murals here and there through classes. And the students really like it and they like seeing it. So I think this is just a great opportunity to explore color theory more, talk about the profession of doing mural painting, have some different muralists come in and talk to them about it as well. And really, I think, make our school more beautiful. So we'll start with doing things probably more in Spalding High School, and then as we see where it leads, we could do stuff other places in the district, just to kind of spread that out. But I think it's a really great skill for them all to learn and try out, so, yeah.
I think this is interesting. Yes, Mrs. Keens?
I guess I'm not understanding what we're doing here. Are these just exposures? Is that what this is? So that kids are exposed to different things rather than their traditional English, math, and science, or even art? You have regular art programs too,
So
right?
all students need a half credit to graduate. It's a graduation requirement of art, which they can take fine arts or they can take music to fulfill that. So we're just trying to offer more courses that really pique their interest. We still have all our typical ones like art one, painting and drawing, ceramics, sculpture, things like that. But we're trying to get a pulse on what they're really interested in to try to just kind of pique their interest, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Downs?
I think it's a great idea, even starting with district and then working with the city, because we have so many city buildings. You know, have some nice drawings that our students did on, or paintings. I think it's a great idea.
Police station's a pretty big building. Just throwing that out there.
We do have an old mural on one of the backsides that could be updated, so why not?
Just saying.
Yeah.
Shane Downs is our chair. Yes, Mr. Pappas?
I'd like to move the mural painting class to the full board for approval.
So motioned by Mr. Pappas, seconded by Mr. White. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Did I say it wrong? Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Next, we have the music department presenting history of Broadway.
Hi, I'm Nikki Luciana Bourgeois. I'm one of the music directors at Spalding. We are noticing in our students that they are a little less inclined lately to want to be like solo performers in theatrical classes. And so I'm the one teaching theater classes right now. I'm trying to come up with alternatives for them because our theater class is very performance-based. For something that they can do that will help them get their fine arts credit, that focuses in theater, because they're very interested in theater, but maybe not the performance aspect of it, and there's still plenty for them to learn. So we've thought up this history of Broadway idea to look at just how a Broadway musical develops, where it's come from, tying it into European opera and where the American musical industry kind of started, all the way up to sort of what's happening on Broadway present day. It would be a half a credit, open to all students at Spalding. It would fulfill their fine arts elective. We'd be using our same music competencies, and it shouldn't impact any of our other courses, and it wouldn't have any additional cost because everything is basically in the public domain that we would need for this anyway, or we already have the texts already on hand, so.
Yep.
Do you see the opportunity to bring students maybe to Boston to see a show?
Yeah, if it worked out for the students, and we could fundraise and look at that. I think Boston is definitely a way easier target than actually bringing them to Broadway, but the level of shows around here is definitely equal in caliber to something like that, and they could learn a lot from seeing what they're learning in the classroom in a real life situation. So it could be a possibility.
That was going to be my question, because I think that'd be interesting if they learn the history of it and then go to a semi-Broadway.
Yeah, and my current theater class, it's aligned nicely the last couple years where we've been able to just take the walking field trip to the Opera House, and they've been really kind to us and given us great prices, and we've been able to bring the whole class, and they've gotten to see things in practice, and then we can go back and talk about all the things we've learned, and like this is what it looks like when it's really done. So even if it was just at that level, it's still a great learning opportunity for them to kind of get the whole scope of what a show looks like. Some of these kids have never seen a show, so a play or a musical, so.
Yep, Mr. White?
Not a question, but that's exactly where I was going.
Yeah.
We have the Opera House right here.
Oh, it's right there.
There's fantastic performances.
Yep.
And as you said, there's a lot of students that have never seen anything there and don't know what's going on and what it's all about.
Yeah.
So as much as Boston is fantastic,
Yeah,
we gotta take advantage of that.
yeah, they're right there.
Great.
And they're great to work with.
All right, Mr. Pappas?
I would like to move or send to the full board the class history of Broadway for approval.
So motioned by Mr. Pappas, seconded by Mrs. Wigan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any- All those opposed? Perfect, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Inadvertently, our next Tuesday, the next course was deleted from the slides. You should have that out, right?
Is it at the very end?
Oh, I put it in the slide. No. So we have journalism yearbook production, 1 and 2.
It's in our backup.
It's in our backup.
Oh, it is, okay.
Great.
Perfect, thank you.
Hi, I'm Sue Westfall. I'm the English department head, so it's nice to see everybody. So we have 2 pre-existing classes. We have journalism and we have yearbook 1 and 2. And we wanted to do something with these classes to combine them because we feel like they have a lot of base things in common. From finding the content to editing to publication, and a lot of the same business skills that would be applied. So we just thought it was a really nice mix and to pull more kids into this program. So that's really the main reason why we are trying to move this forward.
So can you say that again? So what's the one that you currently have?
We have a journalism class and we have a yearbook class.
And so you just want to
We just want to pull them together, yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Pappas?
Yes, I'd like to move that we send the journalism yearbook production 1 and 2 class to the full board for approval.
So motioned by Mr. Pappas, seconded by Mr. White. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you so much. I know that was so easy.
That's great, thank you. And next, we're going to move to the CTE with Ms. Halligan Foley. She has some exciting programs as well.
I love how your classes match your background. Thank you. Had to be said.
Thank you. So thank you all for having me here today. As you know, our goal at the high school is to offer more real-life experiences, hands-on experiences, and that's my charge, and I love doing it at the CTE. So I am going to propose a dental assistant program tonight, and it's going to be 2 years in the making. So I will kind of share with you what I am going to ask for in a little bit. But why do we want to do this? So as you know, every year I am monitored through the Department of Education. And I like to think outside of the box. And so I had mentioned this to them, and they're like, wow, this would be great. So what I put together, if you want to go to the next slide, what I put together was just some information in our local area, in Rochester, in our county, and then in our state. And the bottom line is we have a massive shortage of dental assistants in the state of New Hampshire. Right now we have close to 200 openings. And so I felt after a little bit of research and talking to our local dentist's office, I'm working right now with NHTI President Patrick Tompkins because they have a dental assistant program at post-secondary. So I'm trying to do a crosswalk with post-secondary, that this is something that's needed. There's one program in the state right now, and that is in Littleton, and it's just coming, to fruition. They're just starting the program. I have lots of ideas for the program, but I have no final decision or options to share with you tonight because I am just getting started. So I will bring that to you later. Next slide, please. So in order to get approval, I need to start the application process. The application takes about 6 months to do. And so what I need from you tonight is one, approval that I can start looking into this, which means that you will have to commit to adding a teacher. Because in the application, that's one of the things they say, have you gone to your school board? And are they aware that this is a program that you are looking into? So for the approval process, I have to give a whole background information with data, a justification why this is needed. I have to outline all of the equipment and costs with the equipment, the space in our CTE area, and then I have to kind of compile our advisory partners. So I have to work with all the local businesses. I have to put together the curriculum. I have to make sure that we have work-based learning opportunities. And I also have to solidify some industry-recognized credentials. So all of that just goes into the application. So it takes a while. Next slide, please. So the cost, and I know this is not the committee to talk about cost, but I just wanted to let you know, next year there is no cost. It would be the year after of implementation that there would be a cost. My responsibility would be to complete the application. I will write other grants to secure equipment because it is a little expensive. So I will use some of my Perkins grant, but I will also write a number of other grants to cover all of that. I will secure the business partners with workforce. I will secure a post-secondary institute, which I've already done, signed, sealed, and delivered, and I will secure a teacher. Next slide. So again, this evening, I am respectfully asking the board if I can start to work on an application and move forward with that application. It will take me about 5 to 6 months to do.
So I'm just gonna go to you to see, have you looked at the budget? Is it something that we feel like we can add to the budget? I know it would have to go to finance, but are you looking at that and saying that you think you could fit that in?
I don't know that we've had that, but,
I can,
okay, thank you.
yeah,
Sorry.
so this wouldn't be until FY '27.
Right.
So we're not looking, it's not gonna be rolled in the budget for FY '26, so it'll be rolled in the budget for FY '27. And by that point, we will have a grants writer and we can find other avenues to pay for that.
So you're confident
I'm
that,
confident.
I just don't wanna do 6 months worth of work to not have, I think it's a great idea.
Yes.
I just wanna make sure that we have the funding for it, so it would go to finance. All
I
right,
will.
and yes, Ms. Keynes?
Yeah, hi. I'm just wondering, after a kid has completed this, what does that mean when they go to apply for their post-secondary?
So they will already
Training.
have their dental assistant certificate.
Okay.
And when they go to post-secondary, I've worked with the president, and they can go on to become a hygienist if they choose to do so. Or they can go right into the workforce and start working in a dental office.
Okay, my understanding is they make, well, I don't know, it's a screwy world out there. What I'm hearing is that nobody gets 40 hours a week, but they all get paid very highly for that sort of makes up for the benefits and stuff that they don't get by working 3 or 4 days or something. Is that?
So
Is
our
that
dental
across the-
hygienists
Yeah.
choose to work, a couple days.
Yeah.
Our dental assistants, they can work a 40-hour week.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're just assisting in a lot of the different areas in dentistry.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep, Mr. Pappas?
And I noticed a lot of that is in the backup too. some
Yes.
of the links. I have a couple questions. Do you find that if they go into the workforce right away as an assistant, do offices help pay to send them further to become a hygienist? Do you know?
Yeah, so some of the offices that I've spoken with in the area of Rochester, yes, they said that they're gonna do anything to support this field because there's a shortage. So they're encouraging the students to come right after to get a feel of what it's like and then what they wanna do after.
Do you have any sense of interest among students? Is there?
So I've definitely talked to students who are in our L&A program, and one of the things that we're thinking of right now is year one, LNA, where they learn a lot of the medical terminology, and then they would have different pathways for year 2. So they can become dental hygienists, you know, they can finish their LNA program, or they can go into allied health, which is another option as well.
One more question. If
Yeah,
I can.
you have more.
How much more schooling is there to become a hygienist, do you know, off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's a couple more years, so probably 3-4 more years after that.
Great. Thank
Yes.
You asked the question,
Sorry, I haven't brought it on to. I think it's great, you mentioned that one other district has this, so I think it's important to note that you're really thinking out of the box and thinking what's the next need. So I think that that has to be brought up, because I think that's really important. I would never have thought about something like this, but once you hear about it, there is a need for it. So kudos to you for thinking outside the box and having creative thinking. It sounds like we might have money for it, so I think that would be the next question, is having it go to finance. Mr. Downs, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, can we gauge the interest in the district, who would be interested in this, and how many students would be in this class at a time?
So we would have a maximum, we can only have a maximum of 16 students at a time in the program. And yes, and I never did, and I apologize, I never did finish answering that one question. I did talk to some LNA students, and we do have some interest in that. We've had some second-year LNA students go and work in the dentistry office. Dentistry office, right?
Is this a one-year course too? Sorry, I forgot to ask.
For this, I'm looking at possibly 1 or 2.
Okay.
I have to really sit down. Once I get permission to start thinking about different options, then I will, you know, bring ideas back to you as well.
Mr. Kusmani, you have your hand raised?
Yep, so this is the cost for the SAU teacher is the full-time and full benefits package, correct?
Correct, and that is just an estimate I
Okay,
just
that's-
threw in.
That's what I was
Because
gonna
we
say.
may get, you know, someone who doesn't need benefits, or we may choose to start off with 1 or 2 blocks and see how that goes, and then add to it, so it might be a part-time. I really have to dig deeper, and I can definitely answer all of those questions once I get permission to dig deeper.
What's the maximum though?
There's no way. Maximum, if you're talking about, or you're talking in 2 years from now, just with our benefits and current insurance, the way it's been going, that would actually move to about 107,122 based off of the trend of our current insurance packages. So I would actually recommend you up that so we can move it on. I like the program,
Okay?
but it's gonna come to real dollars and cents. And I was just using the standard inflation from our insurance from
Yeah.
last year to
Yeah.
insurance this year, which was huge difference. So I just took the average.
Okay, I can adjust
So it
that.
actually pushes it up, and then going back and seeing if you can even hire somebody to teach this course at that current price. But I'm in full support of doing this, I just would like to see a little more of the numbers. and
Sure.
Give you time to get going, because it's not gonna affect next year's budget.
Correct.
The following.
Yes, and I will continue to do follow-ups with you as well, so you know what I'm doing.
I also think, you said that you were hoping to get grants as well,
Right.
so, I mean, we may not need the full 7. Mr. Kamara, you had your hand raised?
Yes, great program. So in our CTE, we share programs with surrounding schools, Dover,
Correct.
Somersworth.
Yes.
When we host the class, for lack of a better term, do we have, our students have first choice of seats?
So it's,
So if we're limiting to 16,
it's equal,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
equal opportunity, because we are a Tri-City, and we signed an MOU for that.
okay.
So it's definitely equal opportunity. And we'll look at the need. Initially, I don't think we will fill all of the seats. So we have to, you know, we have to kind of see how we start off. And as I said, I might start off with a half-time teacher and see how it goes, and then we can build it. So it might take a couple of years to build. And we want to be fiscally responsible as a district. And so that's, you know, when I put the numbers together, that's how we may start.
Yep, you have the floor, so continue.
Do we have any other programs that are lacking interest that this may replace as far as programs that are?
No,
Just-
our
they're all running
programs are
Good.
very strong.
Okay.
Very proud to say that.
Good, good.
And we look every year when I go through monitoring with the Department of Ed, that's something they look at. They look at enrollment. They look at industry recognized credentials. They want to make sure that I am meeting the needs of the students at Spalding and the Tri-City. So I would be the first one to say, you know what, we're going to get rid of this program and we'll add that program.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Bellows?
Thank you. If we have, this is more of a CTE, a general CTE question, the program sounds great. If we have students from out of our district, or maybe even out of the Tri-City agreement, take courses in the CTE, is that a revenue generator for us?
So it is and it isn't, because we also have to pay for the Tri-City. So our students who are going out to Dover or Somersworth, we pay as well. So it's a wash, but we have great opportunities. These kids right now get an opportunity for 43 programs to pick from. So it's important.
I think thank you, that does clarify part of my question. I think what I'm actually asking is, like, I know the district that I work in, which is not part of the Tri-City agreement, kids from our high school can go to the CTE in Dover. So is Dover making money from that when kids from outside of that Tri-City agreement?
Everyone pays tuition.
Okay, that's it.
Yes.
So it has the potential to generate revenue.
Yes.
All my questions have been answered, but this sounds like an awesome program to implement.
Mr. Pappas, do you have anything else?
I was just gonna make a motion.
So, Shane, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, you say we're equal opportunity. If you have like, this is a CT as a whole, if you have like 20 people that want to go to a program, how do you decide on who goes if you have out of district and in district? How is that decided?
So we have a rubric that we use. The Tri-City follows a rubric. For our students, we use a platform called Enroll Track, and that is where students apply. Students have to go through interviews to get into the program. So they have to come, they have to interview, and we look at different factors. We look at absences. Are they absent a lot? We look at their grades. How are they doing? We look at their behavior. And then through the interview, we find out, are you really passionate? Is this something that you really want to do? Because it's a 2-year commitment for most of the programs. Some of the programs in Dover, it's a 3-year commitment. And so we need to make sure that they really want this. It's a privilege, it's an honor, and not all students get in. So we use a rubric, we use it across the board, it's all the same, the directors talk together, it's very, very equal. So that's how students get in. And quite honestly, there are students that don't get in, and we sit down with them and we say, hey, you know what, next year we want you to try again. We have students who may not have the best grades, but guess what? They come to the interview, they're passionate, and they say, this is what I want to do for my career. They're going to get it.
Okay.
So everyone has an equal opportunity, and everyone goes through the same rubric.
Awesome. Thank you.
Do you know off chance special education, how many special ed students go to the CTE program?
We had a percentage a couple years ago. I think, don't quote me, but I think it was in the 20s somewhere, percentage.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
You could just confirm that, maybe? At the
I
next
can
meeting or
confirm that
something?
for
Yeah,
you.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Pappas?
I'd like to make a motion to move the dental assistant program to finance for review and hopefully submit it to the full board for approval.
So I have a motion by Mr. Pappas, second by Mrs. Wigan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, all right, next.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
Can I start working on this, or do I need to wait for finance?
That would be a discussion for your superintendent, and
Okay.
I would think that she'll reach out to you afterwards and let you know.
Okay.
We can't make that determination.
Okay, all right. So I will just wait, and then I'll wait to hear from you.
I'm assuming you're gonna hear from her
Tonight.
I'm assuming you're gonna hear from her tonight.
Okay.
Check your email, yeah. All right, the next one.
All right, so I'm back again. I really have been thinking about this and working on this for a couple of years. And our goal is to propose a full-time preschool for the city. We would like to change our Small Wonders schedule from, next slide please, from 2 daily sessions, so AM and PM session with about 8 students, Tuesday to Friday, to a full school day session from 7 in the morning till 4 with 16 students, Monday through Friday. Why we want to do this, next slide, thank you, is we've had several staff members over the past couple of years say, hey, we would love to have our kids attend the preschool. Last fall, I believe it was, and Allison, you can correct me if it was wrong, if it's wrong, but we had the city approach us. And the city had a grant, a child care grant, because, again, if you look at the data, there is a lack of child care in not only the city, but, you know, in the state. And so we worked very diligently with them and came up with all of these options. And then in the end, they decided that, no, they didn't want to partner with us. So we wanted to go back to looking at the full-time again. The cost of childcare is really high, and we want to make it available for our families at a much lower rate. We have a very high quality, high established program, and we would like to meet our community's needs. That's why we're here, right? And so that's an opportunity for us to do that. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we would change it to full-time, and our tuition would increase. So I'm going to go through cost analysis on the next page. The thing that I'm asking for tonight is another requirement. For every preschool program, it's got to be a 1-to-8 ratio, meaning you have to have 1 teacher to 8 students. We are going to increase from 8 students to 16 students. So we're going to need 2 adults in the room. And so what I'm asking for is to add a paraeducator to that room. So if we go to the next page, I'm going to outline just the budget. So my thought, actually, Cabinet I spoke with, and they came up with you know, a great number, so I appreciate the input. We would like to ask for $400 a month, which is nothing, right? Some of the preschools, it's $400 a week right now. And so I'm asking families to pay $400 a month for 16 students for 10 months. The total revenue is $64,000. So I wanted to put the additional costs in there and see where we end up. So I'm looking at a paraeducator, 27.5 hours, so no benefits are needed. And I looked at their agreement, and so I started with a Para-Ed 1 and a Para-Ed 2, the top range salaries. So you can see it ranges from 17 to 25. Overall, for 40 weeks, you see what the payout is, $19,000 to $28,000. So that would be the cost for the paraeducator. Other costs include supplies. So we're looking at food, mats, curriculum supplies. That total comes to $6,000. And then the curriculum comes to the $5,000. So total, the top range for a para 2, if I used a para 2, it would be $39,000. If you look at the total revenue, at the end, you would still make $24,000 with this program. That would be total revenue. All right, next slide. So benefits to our CTE Teacher of Multiple Levels program. It's just going to allow for flexible scheduling. So it's going to allow for year 1 and year 2 students to have more time to work with students so that they can do their internships and they can build hours for some of the credentials that they would get. Right now I'm working with Great Bay, and we have a New Hampshire registered pre-apprenticeship program, and that would allow our students to get the hours they needed for that, and then they would go right into their apprenticeship program post-secondary. Next slide. And then again, we have looked at the curriculum. The curriculum is all research-based. This was my specialty in my last district because I was principal of early childhood, so I know quite a lot about the curriculum, and I think, you know, it complements the REACH program, so we're doing a lot of similar strategic planning together, so all students can benefit from the same curriculum. Next slide. Questions?
Ms. Keene?
Yeah, thank you. Michelle, are the space needs gonna be okay?
Yes.
To increase this, because you just,
Yes.
you're using the same
So-
space, only gonna more
Right.
days.
Before, we did have 16 students in the program, but then we had one of the assistants leave, and we felt that it was really important to get a certified teacher in there, so we kind of put those two together so that we could have a certified teacher. So it will not be a problem. We've done it in the past.
Good.
You all set, Ms. Keene?
I'm all set, thank you.
Mr. Pappas?
When you said you're going from 8 to 16, those are preschool students, right? Not high school students working in the program?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
How many high school kids would be involved in this typically?
So it would be, they would rotate from the Teacher of Multiple Levels program, so there would probably be about 3 students, 4 students at a time, rotating through all day long. So they're gonna get more hours in if they're doing the pre-apprenticeship program, right? And that's what, we want them to get as many hours as they can.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, Mr.
Now, do you have any sort of, if you're upping to 16 now, who gets priority? Is it school teachers, or is it just first come, first served?
No, we will put it out there to the community. It's a community need. We will put it out there to the community, and then we'll go from there. Probably first come, first serve. And again, we haven't, to be honest with you, we haven't thought about all of these little things yet. We just want it approved, and then we'll be able to answer all those questions.
Yes, Mrs. Wiggin?
And before, isn't it like one is 3-year-olds, one is 4-year-olds? So would it be 3 and 4-year-olds, or would it be?
So research shows that having multi-level is actually beneficial to all students developmentally. So it is going to be 3 to 5 years old.
3 to 5. So, couple things. I think if we're gonna lower the rate, I would like to see it go to teachers if we're lowering the rate, because we wanna make sure that we benefit our teachers. If not, there would be no reason for us to lower that rate. If it's community-based, we would wanna be charging typically what another daycare would, if we're providing that service.
Yeah.
So my concern would be if this is gonna be something that we're providing, we should be able to dictate that we're gonna provide it for teachers first, and then if not, maybe city employees, and then after that, the community. Hold on. My second concern is, you said, are you counting for 2 teachers?
I'm
Is that already in
counting
the budget?
for one teacher who's already there. She's already there, and she's already teaching, and she's with teacher contract and
Yeah.
everything. I am adding an additional paraeducator.
So that's another concern, because we're looking at a paraeducator, which we're short on paraeducators, so I want paraeducators working with our staff in our school, with our students that need it. So if we're looking for another person and we're throwing in a paraeducator just to outweigh the cost of insurance, we could get a job coach that could be full-time. Like, I'd like to look at that option, because I mean, I wanna save money like the rest of them, but I don't wanna put somebody in there just because we think we're gonna save money on insurance. I think paras should make full-time, that's a whole other different discussion, but I'm not sure who to look at, so I'm just kind of looking at both of you. But I mean, I would like to see what the cost would be for a full-time staff member to assist. It doesn't have to be a daycare, the teacher, it could be, but I'd like to see what the cost, because we don't need to make $24,554. And if we're charging a quarter of the price, we could hire a full-time staff member so that paraeducator could be in our school so that we could support this fully. Because if this is based on a paraeducator and you can't find one, you're dead in the water, so to speak.
I already, I've already kind of researched it, and I have a number of people who are certified in preschool who would love to come and do something like that.
Which is great, but I'd also like them in school if possible.
Yeah.
So I would like to get a full-time employee.
I see what you're saying.
I would like to get a full-time employee. I get what you're doing by trying to save money on the insurance part, but if we are making this revenue and we have to charge people a little bit more to get a full-time employee in there, I mean, why not get the full-time employee? You're open 9 hours, why not get that full-time employee? Because then you're looking at, if you get 37.5 hours, how many hours are they working each week? Are we low in the beginning, or are we low on the end? We want a full-time person in there for the whole time. So that would be something that I think we need to, and again, if you have paras that wanna hire, you should hook them up with Annie, because we need them. So that would be another thing that I think we need to really look at, because you're gonna have highly qualified full-time staff that are gonna want it. And I feel like they should get benefits. I mean, we all like our benefits, so why shouldn't they? And then, yeah, I think you're saying, and I agree with you, that some people are paying $400 a week and we're charging them $400 a month. Why are we not, I get it, we don't wanna make money, but why are we not charging, even if we're giving them a discount of half, like we're gonna charge you, instead of $100 a week, $200 a week, that's still saving a lot of money, or potentially.
Yeah.
If people, you know what I mean? I think that we need to kind of look at that. You have your hand raised, so I'm just gonna shoot it to you.
I just want to let you know, we did speak at Cabinet. We want to use this as a retention strategy for our focus area on acquiring and retaining highly qualified talent as part of our strategic plan. So, and I'm sorry, Michelle, we didn't circle back with you, but that is definitely the intent, is for staff to have a preference, because it's going to retain our staff. And I agree with you. That's another retention, right? Is providing them benefits, having a 35-hour paraeducator where they would have access to benefits.
Especially if we have the revenue. Like, even if we're saying $107,000, because Mr. Kusmano, you put your hand out, because we're gonna call on you after. But even if you're looking at $107,000, if you up it to $150 a week, and you can get that, like, why not do it? We're not charging more than a daycare. We know there's a need for it. It just seems like, why are we nitpicking on getting somebody to not provide benefits?
Yeah.
I just feel like, you know what I mean? I don't know what the rest of the committee feels like, but I feel like, yeah, I think it's the right thing to do. Any other questions from the committee? Okay. Mr. Kusmani, you had your hand raised.
So I like the program, my kids are in the program, I wish it would have been full-time when my kids were going. I disagree a little bit on the fact of making revenue, but I would look at a 2-tier system. One, teaching staff, I would have no problems sucking up a little bit of money even if we went to more than 27 hours to give them a lower rate. That goes to retention, that goes towards their benefits. It's a great program. I say if we went outside of our district or our staff members, then maybe we look at $600 a month, which still would be way under for what the city's paying on average for a 5-day-a-week program. I would definitely recommend our staff first, even if this board's gotta come up with a little bit of extra money and two full-time people with benefits. And then maybe you offset it because you keep 6 lots for the outside community, or however you wanna do it, but I think it would go to retention, and help keeping our staff members here and give them a lower cost. And their children is right there if they're at the high school or at least real close.
I don't want to skip you, you're good. Mr. Bellis?
Thank you. I agree with the folks that have mentioned, if we could prioritize staff here, I think that would just be an excellent idea from a staff retention standpoint. That amounts to a pretty big benefit that person receives by being able to keep their kids close by for a reasonable cost. I wonder, because it's been a couple years since my children were in daycare, but the price that you mentioned would be pretty appealing. I could see demand for that. Is there room to expand where the current location is if the demand was there and the staffing was available?
If the board wants to, build an addition and,
Sure.
yeah,
Okay.
I would
But
be
not
very
necessarily.
open to that.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just wanted to know. And then you mentioned that the hours would be 7 to 4. We have a lead teacher there that's on a teacher contract. Are they on a different contract, or how do you cover those extended hours that extend beyond the teacher's contracted day?
So that's where the paraeducator would come in, because the teacher, I have to make sure that they have prep, I need to make sure that they have lunch. I have to follow all of the, the contract. And so when we were working it out, that paraeducator would be more in the afternoon and covering that prep and that lunch.
Sure, thank you. And then I 100% agree. It was one of the first things I thought about at the 27.5 hours is if there's a way that we can get our paras full-time and with benefits, I think that's another retention strategy. Although I will say, Madam Chair, that some people are interested in very specific paraeducator roles and not, so I could see people that would love to work in a preschool, but they really don't have any interest in being a paraeducator at a higher level. And so again, you might just attract different applicants by being open to that possibility, I think. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess my suggestion is this when are we looking to have this started?
I would like to do it next year if possible.
So my suggestion would be, can we table it, kind of fix it a little bit, and then, because I think it's really good. I just think, for me, I don't care if we call it a paraeducator. I think if we're gonna we need a full-time staff, I think, and we don't have to, I don't know that it needs to be an educator, you know what I mean? So that's on you, whatever you feel you need. I think it's a very good supportive thing, and I think exactly what Mr. Cusimano said. We don't need to make revenue, even if we have to put in a little towards it. I don't know that that's out of the realm. But I think if you're gonna do a program like this, let's do it right and let's get some full-time staff so that it's covered, because you're open 9 hours. So it's gonna be really difficult to say we have 16 kids, we have to staff 2 of them, but we're only gonna have 1 full-time and a paraeducator for a 9-hour program. I think that if we could just kind of maybe fix little of those fine details and bring it back, does that make sense?
Yep.
But I think this board is going to approve it once, I can't speak for the committee, but I think once those fine details are fixed, it's a great thing. And again, I think the board has spoken to say we'd like it to go towards staff in the district first, because it'd be a huge thing for them. I see more hands raised. I want to make sure the committee doesn't. Yes, Mr. Guzmano?
And I would just play with the times a little bit to make sure that the staff members have time to get to schools, especially if we're gonna push this towards staff.
We did that.
Yeah.
We actually took that into account.
Perfect. Mr. Bellows?
Thank you. Does this program run just during the school year, or is it a year-round program?
Just during the school year, we're gonna follow the school district calendar.
Thank you.
That's great. What about the magnet school? No, just curious.
What about, oh, the
Because
night,
they
no,
fixed
we
it in the
can,
schedule.
oh,
Extended.
Something,
She's-
can you
it's
just add that on the
10
list of
months.
things to consider? Mr.
Well, I wasn't gonna, my things were answered, but I was just gonna say, it's contingent upon having high school students there, so if they're out and
Correct.
you have
Yeah.
2 or 3 more weeks, they're not there to work or to gain that experience, so.
Mr.
Do the high school kids get paid, or is it just part of their curriculum?
so, very good question.
Thanks.
So,
He has them every once in a
Once in a
while.
blue moon it happens.
when we did it before and it was an extended past the high school hours, those students did get paid.
The 2:30 to 4.
And I think I did mention that in there, and I apologize, I didn't mention that, but yes, they did get paid.
Just
And-
those 2:30 to 4 kids.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, during the school day,
That's part of their
it's part
curriculum.
of their curriculum.
But if you did add it extra in the morning, there would be a cost potentially.
If I added students in the morning,
Yeah,
yeah,
so.
it would only be a
They start at
half
7:30.
hour.
Just curious. Okay, so do we need a motion to table it for next month, or do we just bring it forward again next
Oh,
month?
bring it up next one.
Okay, so so my charge then to come back is to adjust the costs, correct?
So Annie took notes, so she'll connect with you and tell you everything that we need.
Okay, perfect.
Because I didn't write it all down, so.
I just want to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to get
Yep.
this through.
She
My
will
goal is
connect
to
with you
get
and
it
let you know.
through, and we need to start September.
That would be the goal. So yeah, she will connect with you and let you know all of that, because she wrote it all down.
All right, thank you.
She's our boss.
Thank you, Michelle.
Think we're hers, but,
Thank you, Michelle.
thank you, Michelle.
Thanks. And we have one more presentation. Mr. Gilpatrick from the middle school.
Hi, good evening. It's just one course, and I just want to kind of go over the last 3 years. We've really taken and tried to expand our Unified Arts program, and we've taken positions that we couldn't really find teachers for and rebranded them. So we've added a third art teacher, we've added business, journalism. Last year, we were fortunate enough to present it on robotics, and you guys pushed it forward, and it's been a huge success. I mean, I was in the hallway today, and they were all kind of training their XRP robots. It's a really neat process, a lot of cool things happening. They're getting into 3D printing, and so it's a really neat pathway as they get into the high school, and all kinds of kids are interested in it, 6 through 8. This position, right now, we're looking for a health occupation first responder unified art class, and we're really trying to give kids another experience of that hands-on, something that they can really use outside of school, inside of school, thinking about safety, careers, if they want to, get their CPR, first aid. Eventually, they want to go into a program, they want to get their LNA. There's other programs as they get to the high school that it could kind of start something, whether it's sports medicine, health science technology, biomed, medical assisting, or other STEM-related fields. So I really think it's a neat opportunity for our students.
So you have on here one certified health science educator. How much is that going to cost?
I don't have the exact cost right now, but
Probably be similar,
it'd be,
107.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be something that you'd want to provide for us next time, because if we're going to pass this to finance, we have to have a hard number. So, are we adding that 107?
107, that's the number.
Mr. Kusmano, was it 107?
Well, that's 2 years from now if you did the current average, so.
We would be looking for next year.
It would be
So
for next year.
So what's that number?
103, 105.
Which one? Give me a number.
I do up to 105.
Okay, up to 105.
And that's going based off of our current increase on insurances and all that other stuff.
That's why you're here?
And
Yeah,
this is,
just so
some-
next time we have to pass it to finance, so
Yep.
we can't just not have a number on there. So it would be 105, and then it would be $5,000 for supplies and software.
Correct.
Do you know what software you would be using?
Not currently, no. We're looking at programs at the high school, and we probably have to get some supplies connected to CPR first aid as well.
right, blood pressure
Yep.
machines and other medical supplies. We looked at other schools to look at what supplies they have at this point. So it's a baseline.
Yes, Mr.
I'm assuming we could use grants as well for the supplies.
Yes, and we have done that for robotics. That's how we were able to get we got 7 3D printers through that.
I think my concern is I'd like to know what software you're gonna be, like if we're gonna be talking about doing a class like this, I'd like to know what software you're potentially wanna be using and what supplies you're gonna need. So like, if you look at the other slides where Ms. Halligan-Foley like had, I would like more information. I don't know about the rest of the committee, but I'd like to know what you're looking for as far as supplies and software, because I think that's important for us to know.
Well, typically when and we can put some specifics
Yep.
down, but typically when we present this, like we did with the robotics last year, we went out to other programs, we got feedback from the programs, what the estimate is for starting a robotics program. Every program's going to be a little different. So we were just looking at what are some of the base costs to get started. There's online first aid courses that you can purchase, but there's not only one that we would purchase, and there's not one curriculum that we would purchase for this program.
Right,
So-
but I think robotics and an actual academic class are a little, in my opinion, they're weighed out a little different. Like, I think when you're saying you're looking for a program with robotics, it's a little different. So I think for me, if you're gonna present something like this, and I don't speak for everybody else, but if you're saying you want it how do you know that you're gonna only spend 5,000? Like,
Well,
how did
we
you
did
come?
the same thing
I
with,
wasn't finished. How do you know that you're only gonna need that $5,000 for supplies and software? If we're looking at specific software, even come and tell us, hey, we have 3 different softwares that we're looking at and these are the prices of them. I just wanna make sure that if we're approving something, that we know what specifically we're approving. Again, that's just me,
Yep.
it could be different, but go ahead.
and the practices we've gone through in the past with these new UA positions is to build upon it. And so robotics, we started with the 5,000. That's all we had, and then we started exploring grants and seeing what we could add to it and build upon that. So that we would follow the same path.
Mr. Pappas?
I love the idea. I think that it is potentially a sort of stepping stone into the CTE program. I don't have a problem with the $5,000 fee. I don't think we've ever asked for specifics about what specific software we're gonna be asking for. So I don't have a problem with that, and I intend to push it to the finance committee. Sure.
Yes, Mr. Downs?
I'm kind of on board. I understand where Mrs. Stokes is coming from, but I am definitely on board with this class, and I would almost not on this committee, but moving it forward, but just getting maybe an update once you do a little more research on it but I think it's a great class, and it opens up the students' minds at a younger age to figure out what they want to do in the future.
I think it's a great class. I think it's a great idea. I think if you partnered with Frisbee, you partnered with the fire department, they could help you out. As submitted like this, I would kill it at finance. And I would not even put it in a budget line. I think you need to come back with real numbers, real dollars. Last year, we were talking about cutting teachers when we sat here on the budget. And now you want us to spend up to this amount? Or is $5,000 gonna happen, or are you gonna come back and ask for more money? I think if you did a little more homework and got it to finance, by the time we had our finance committee, I'd fully support it and get it pushed through. But without hard numbers, I'm gonna shoot it down and move on to people that have done a little more homework and given us our numbers. But I like the idea, I like the program. I'd really reach out to like the fire department, and they could probably give you a lot of those numbers.
So the fire department, we actually have been working with their educator. I was just with Maria the other day, and they're looking to have CPR, do some CPR training with our students this year, and working with us within our health classes. But certainly, we, in the past, we haven't, asked for an extra UA. So this is the first one in the last 3 years that we're asking. This is a new position, right? And we definitely have collapsed some positions in general ed teaching positions
And
as
I
well.
think in response to what you said, you're right, but how much does a CPI or somebody who's gonna provide first aid, how much is a certified first aid, and are we using an AED, are we not? Like, that's gonna cost money. So when somebody comes in and does a CPR first aid, what amount is that? So exactly what Mr. Cusimano said. Is it a full-time position that we're looking for? Could we get away with a part-time position? If we're gonna really do this class, which I agree with Mr. Pappas, we need this. This is a great thing to have. But I don't know that I'm comfortable passing this to finance when we don't even know how much a full-time, or somebody coming into a CPR, teaching us a CPR class, and what they're actually teaching, because there's so many different CPR classes. But I think the middle school, you know, they want to start babysitting, they might need a CPR class. So I think this is great. I think we just need more numbers. How do we pass this to the finance committee when we are talking about specific classes, but we don't know how much that stuff's gonna cost? I think it's a little different from the robotics. And I know you wanna respond, so I'm gonna give you a chance. But that's what I'm saying, is we need more definitive numbers to pass this on.
No, I'm not disagreeing, I don't wanna see us miss a chance to have this class in our school next year. So my question is like, how much time, would this push us so we would not be able to have this in our class if we don't approve this at the full board coming January? Are we gonna delay it from being in our school next year?
So just for background, and I appreciate these asks, we talked to the cabinet, and this was something that we put on the budget proposal. So those numbers were already calculated into moving forward. We had 12 positions that were cut from the middle school. We've been trying to grow out of that for a couple of years now. And this is one of those high-need pathways positions. For the supplies, usually right when we get this passed, these guys are working hard to go and get everything in order. So they go, they start planning, they actually reach out and get the numbers after. By no means can we go over 5,000. That is the number, the threshold, so we don't come back and ask for more, we may plan for it forward.
But if you need it, we want you to have it.
It is a starting, and the other thing that we've done with business, with robotics, is we attach that teacher to the programs at the high school. And so first, we reached out to Michelle Halligan-Foley and said, what are the needs, like your students coming into your programs, what could they benefit from? And so we started there, and so we would build, like I said, slowly build it up each year, and look at what are the needs cost-wise each year as we grow the program.
Can I just ask for your opinion? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I mean, if we held it off and had it come back next month, what would you suggest?
I would suggest we hold it off until next month.
I mean, because
And
again.
and it's not gonna affect it because we could still roll it into the budget and have it in the budget workbook and always remove it if it's not passed in February.
I've given you a chance, I know that other people, but I will come back to you. Mr. Bellows.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I have a couple questions more just about the structure of UAs, if you don't mind. So what do we currently offer at the middle school for Unified Arts?
For all Unified Arts?
Sure, yeah.
So we have chorus band, we have art, we have business, we have journalism, we have robotics, we have reading tier, math tier, French, Spanish, I'm trying to forget anything, health, did I say health? And that is, I think, the core. But we have 3 art teachers, we have 3 PE teachers, we have 1 chorus, 1 band teacher, they're teaching 6th through 8th grade.
Do the students rotate through all the UAs, or do they sign up for ones that they're interested in?
The goal is to get them exposed to all of them. Sometimes one of the things we've talked about as a kid that's a really good artist the goal is to get them more art classes. Guidance counselors are meeting with kids regularly and talking about their choices, and we really try to get them something that they're interested in within that year, if not the following year.
And then the last question I have is just, so what does that schedule look like then? I think we're in trimesters at the middle school.
Yep.
So how long does a UA last for a kid?
For 1 trimester. So unless it's band, chorus, and we have a full year Spanish course.
And they do 1 UA a trimester, or is there multiple?
2, yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep, go ahead, Ms.
Can I make a suggestion that we, if it's possible, that we pass the course itself and that finance, we will have everything ready by the first Thursday in January for finance with a complete picture of what the numbers look like. Or actually just essentially the TLSS will be passing the course itself and the 1 teacher.
Mr. Dale?
Yeah, I'm kind of on board. I don't want to delay there, because I'm sure they got to do a lot more digging into what's going to be in this course, and just pushing it back a month. I think, like she said, we can approve the course, and then they can come forward with the finance numbers. And if they set up to 5,000, and let's say they need more, they just know they'll have to come to the board to request more. I just don't want to delay and put more work on our administration to get the curriculum rolling on it.
I don't disagree, and I ask your guidance, but I feel like this can't come through us this way again. Like, if we're talking about a CPR course, we need to know how much a certified CPR person is gonna be. If there is a certified health or science education teacher, I wanna know how much, like, so we're gonna basically send something to finance and we don't even have a number. So that makes me really uncomfortable. I think I can be in support of doing it potentially with the rest of the board. I'm kinda teetering because we have really good proposals and then we have one like this. And again, I think it's great, I think we need it. I don't, like, please know that I'm just probably being a little bit of a hard ass, but I feel like we need to have that information in order to submit it to finance. I mean,
Can I respond?
I think Shane wants to, but yeah, you can.
I just wanna say, anytime we hire a teacher, it's a teacher contract, so we can never give you the exact amount, because it could be a level, it would be a step 5 teacher, it could be a step 10. So the high end would be if we have like a high-end teacher, step 10, step 15, right? Plus benefits could carry us over 100K, but we wouldn't be able to be so precise to let you know what that number is.
But to have no number is, does anybody else on board want to say anything?
Yes.
Oh, well, other people have their hand, we have to calm down.
No, I just agree with you. I
Okay,
think
Mr. Pappas.
I think this proposal is like almost any other proposal we've had. Keep in mind, this is not a CTE program, it is a middle school program. And I think this proposal is fine in my book. One certified health or science educator, even a PE teacher, if we're gonna get stuck on who's certified for CPR, many people can become certified to teach CPR. I could be that person if I wanted to go through that program with the Red Cross. So anybody can do it. So if we're hiring somebody in the health field or has a background in the health field or even has a PE program, I'm pretty sure that I could do a pretty good job teaching some of the things that are on this list. So anytime we've ever asked for another staff person, whether it's something for this or whether it's a CTE program, it's an estimated cost for a staff person, which is right around $100,000 when you include the cost of salary and benefits. So I don't see this as any different than any other program that we've ever been exposed to or been brought to a committee. So I intend to send this to finance for approval, or at least put the motion.
Mr. Gusmana?
So then it also comes to the whole thing, are they gonna be a certified trainer, and then who are they certified through? Is my next question. Is the school paying for their certificates, their books, and the equipment? There's a lot more that needs to go into this. I could get past the whole teacher, whatever a teacher costs, but $5,000's not gonna do it when an AED on average costs you $1,500. One of the dummies are gonna cost you almost $200 a piece. Then you're gonna have the mask, you're gonna go up. I think if you put some more to it, or at least have the time and come to finance with it, otherwise I won't push this through with the finance committee, and that's where I sit on it.
And I agree, I know your hands are raised, I agree. I think it's just, some of you know what it entails and some of us don't. So I think it's just having that information when we're talking about a new class so that we can do our due diligence.
And sorry, the biggest thing to continue going on is who's are we certifying this with? The American Red Cross, there's other organizations out there. How much is the booklet? The booklet changes every couple of years. Are you requiring the students to get recertified every 2 years? Maybe sticking some of the Good Samaritan laws into the course so they understand that. There's a lot more that would go into this than just one little.
So, right, and I don't want to beat a dead horse. It sounds like we get it. So I want to make sure, I think we're going to pass it through to find if there's going to be a motion. So it sounds like, but just for next time, I think it's just for those of us that don't know, it would just be great to have a little bit more information. Does that make sense? So, yes, Mr. White.
So again, a lot of these costs, and that goes back to the question that I asked, are gonna be covered by grants. So we have to understand that as well. So AEDs, dummies, masks, all of that type of equipment, there are grants out there for all of that. So that's not gonna be cost associated to the district, so we have to keep that in mind as well.
The 3D printers were between $5,000 and $7,000. We got 7 of those through grant funding.
Ms. McGowan hasn't, so I'd like to give her, and then you, sorry.
I think this is a great idea. I think there are lots of students at the middle school that would love this. And, you know, if Annie says they can get more of a financial snapshot for the meeting in 2 weeks at finance, bring that to finance, like, and get this rolling so we don't miss out on a high-quality educator.
I agree. Mr. Camille?
Just as a point of clarification, unlike the CTE program, this is not a certificate course, correct?
Correct.
This is an exploratory health class, basically. All right, so as far as a certified and certified in what and certified in this, it's a certified teacher, all right? And we're bringing in the resources. It's introductory. This isn't signing a certificate to these middle school students like the CTE program, which when they complete the program, they walk out with a certificate of completion and competencies. So just keeping that in mind, don't get caught up on certified as far as, you know, through the Red Cross or through whatever. A certified teacher as a health teacher or phys ed teacher with a science or a health background could be instructor for this.
Mr. Dow?
So they came forward with the proposal, they explained the class, asked for a certified teacher. We know how much a certified teacher can cost, and $5,000 in supplies. It's not our job to look into how much the AP is gonna cost and how much the dummy's gonna, that's on their end to figure out. They're asking for $5,000, whether we approve it or not. If they need more money, then they come back to the board and say, you know what, we needed more money, or the grants. I'm kind of with Mr. Pappas, they gave us certified teacher, we know how much certified teacher is, and they're asking for $5,000. If they need more, then that's on them to have to come back, but it's not our job to look into how much everything is. It's their job to do that.
I disagree with you. I'm gonna support it, but I disagree with you, because if we're gonna pay for a teacher, I want them to have all the supplies they need. So if they need a dummy, they need an AD, I think that we could potentially get grants. But I think it would be fiscally responsible for us to approve something and then have them come back and be like, oh yeah, we need another $10,000 because we needed something. So for me, if you want to start a new class, I think it's our job, if you're bringing it to our committee, to say, are you sure that that's enough? That's why I'm asking, because if I didn't need it, or they didn't need it, or now we paid $100,000 for a teacher, and we paid all this stuff, and then they need something else, our hands are tied. So that's why I think that your response is, I disagree with. Because I think if we're gonna start a class, it's this board's responsibility to make sure they have everything they need to start the class and have a good class. That's the only reason I was saying it. I didn't mean it for it to go round and round.
No, but to go off Mr. White.
You did, I didn't call on you.
Can I respond back to?
Yes, you may.
Oh.
Thanks for asking.
To respond to like Mr. White said, you're gonna get a lot of grants for a lot of these medical stuff.
Hopefully.
So.
I don't disagree, but I'm just saying, like, we need to know. I'm just asking
I'm
because I wanna
I'm not
know.
disagreeing that we need to know.
So you agree with me? Thank you. Mr. Cusimano?
So they're gonna go through this class and not get a
CPR
CPR certification or AED?
That's not, I mean, we're talking about the course right now.
Yeah.
And this is the same exact presentation that we did for robotics. So,
So will they get a CPR?
will they get a CPR for certification? That's the goal. That's definitely the goal. And we're working with, right now, like I said, with the fire department of trying that out with health classes. And they're looking at multiple programs. One is free, one is, there's a cost.
And so just to build off that, typically, as I was saying, right after this gets passed, that's when we really get into the details of building out the curriculum. Because prior to this, we do the research, we make sure, hey, we're preparing a teacher for what they need to get started, and then we sit down with them, and that's really when we're able to see, because it's beforehand, we can't build the curriculum if you don't pass a course. Like, we're looking for, let us go forward, we've done our due diligence with looking at what other courses have, and with this, the things that we heard, it would be first aid, which was free, actually. Looking in the future at CPR certification, possibly, but not all students would need that. These are middle school students, and this is exploratory, so this would be those first steps to exploring this pathway.
Just know we wouldn't be asking these
Oh,
questions if it
absolutely.
wasn't to, it's not, you know what I mean, it's to support you to make sure
Right.
that this goes through and
Absolutely.
to increase it and to make it better. So just
Right.
know that, it's not because, it's just because we want to know and we want to make sure that we support you in what you need. Mr. Kusmano's last and then Mr. Pappas.
Right, and
Oh.
this trend is with an old board, and that's why we were looking to cut 12 teachers last year. I'm not gonna cut staff members. So when this stuff has come up, if you watch the last finance budget proposal, we went through each line, and the first thing I would say is we will submit a non-tax compliant budget, but I am not gonna continue trying to push that, and I'm not gonna try to continue to put on programs if we don't know the cost. Because that's what got us into the problem last year, and we sat here for days. I'm talking about firing teachers, I'm not firing staff. So if we're gonna submit something, I'm telling you right now, a lot of the people in the finance committee are gonna wanna know these numbers, and we're not gonna hire a $110,000 teacher, or over 5 years, $122,767 is what it would cost the district if we don't have the equipment in place, and we don't have the grants in place, or we don't know what grants we're going after. We need a little more, I would say a little more research if we're gonna submit things and get them pushed through. That's why I said, reach out to the fire department, if you need a point of contact, shoot me an email, I'll have you one by the morning.
Mrs. Keynes?
Yeah, I'm gonna support the program, but I would tell you right now, I think $5,000 is not enough.
I agree.
For supplies at all. I mean, buying 5 blood pressure machines or some of those other appliances you need, I think it's gonna come over $5,000 to get all these kids through the program, but, because you know some of them are gonna disappear or get broken. You know how that works.
So Mr. Pappas?
Which is why we have grants. But first, I'd like to apologize for the badgering of you guys in this proposal, so.
I don't think anybody
But-
badgers.
Definitely. I would like to move this course to the Finance Committee for discussion and approval to the full board, which hopefully will get to the full board.
Second.
So motion by Mr. Pappas, second by Mr. White. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How'd you like that workout?
Good questions.
All right, so we got done A. So we have a resignation of Abra Andrews, art teacher at Spalding High School. Does anybody want to make a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pappas, second by Mrs. Wigan. Any discussion?
You said,
Retirement,
Yes,
sorry.
yes.
It's retirement, I take that back, thank you. So retirement, are you still fine with that motion?
Yep.
Mrs. Wiggins, you're still fine, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, and then we have, hold on, I have so many tabs open. Review and approve the following job descriptions. So the first one is the academic evaluator. I also want to say thank you for the rationale. I think that's really important. So I'm just going to open it up to you.
Thank you. So moving forward, we will actually look at rationales for any of these job descriptions. So right now, we have a few special education teachers that are vacant. They have been unfilled in the middle school, and I believe in the high school we have a 1 or 2. As we all know, special education teachers, there's a critical shortage in the United States. We've been trying to fill them. We have not filled them. And so in conversations with Ms. Camus and Dr. Bryant, when we were learning a little bit more about the work that the special education teachers facilitate, they facilitate not only direct instruction to students, but they also do the academic assessments. And they also do the clerical work, so they prepare for meetings, and they call the families, and they do the consent forms, and they make sure that they're monitoring and make sure that they're in compliance with the deadlines. That's typically work of an administrative assistant and also an academic assessor. So because we can't find special education teachers, or they're just not there, and right now our current special education teachers across our district are really spread thin, we're looking at this a little more strategically. So we'd like to actually have 2 academic evaluators. Now this is cost neutral because we're repurposing our special education teachers for 2 academic evaluators to take that responsibility off of our special education teachers. Also, repurposing 2 paraprofessionals for 2 administrative assistants in special education to again take off the clerical work off of these special education teachers. So therefore, they would only do direct instruction with students and progress monitoring, making sure that they're meeting their goals on their IEPs, which is really what they love to do and what they really want, really the work you want to facilitate. So those are the academic evaluators, and I actually jumped to C, but we can stick with the academic evaluator. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Camus if you wanted to add anything.
No, that was good.
Yeah.
Clear.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a lot of work on a special education teacher, so, and it wouldn't be any extra cost, we would just be taking 2 special ed teachers away and adding these two, and changing the.
Exactly.
Ms. Keynes, did you have a question?
Yeah, who is, they're reporting to the Director of Student Services, who is that?
Ms. Camus?
That's you?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were the Special Ed Director.
No.
So, okay. I can't keep all your titles straight.
Go on.
The other thing, do they cross-pollinate between middle school and high school and elementary school? Is that what happens?
Yeah, so what we would be looking at is all going throughout our district, so really elementary school, middle school, and high school. They'd be working amongst all those different schools to help the special ed teachers with completing the academic evaluations.
Okay. Got it.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
I'm all set.
Okay, Mr. Pappas?
I'm just getting hung up on one of the specific responsibilities where it says diagnostic assessments. Is that testing a kid whether or not they are, they have a learning disability?
Yeah, so that would be completing, so for special ed, especially, we're looking at all of, every area that we're looking at has to do an academic evaluation, so they'd be completing those academic evaluations.
Wouldn't that typically be done by a psychologist?
No, so that's typically the cognitive evaluations or the social emotional, and that's more of the psychoeducational evaluations the school psychologists are doing. So currently, our special ed teachers are doing the academic evaluations and classroom observations.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
So that's basically anybody that is a child find, and then if you have an IEP, every 3 years you have to get
Yes.
reevaluated.
Yep.
So that's the academic
Yep.
testing.
Yeah, that's the academic, and then when we're going through the process of doing the evaluation, the academic evaluator would be one part of the team. Typically, there may be a school psychologist that's also there that would be talking about it once we get to the determination meeting, depending on the student's suspected areas of disability.
Are you all set? All right, does anybody want to make a motion? Do we need a motion?
Yes. We're repurposing 2 positions into the educator evaluator.
Mr. Pappas?
I would move that we send the job description of the academic evaluator to the full board.
So motion by Mr. Pappas, seconded by Mrs. Wigan. Are we going to post these?
I was going to ask if we could post the anticipated now during the holiday break.
I don't have a problem with it. Does anybody in the committee have a problem with it? No. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. All right, the next one is, hold on, I gotta get rid of my tabs. The out-of-district coordinator?
I will turn that over to Ms. Camus.
Awesome. So recently, we had one of our out-of-district coordinators resigned, so we'll have one opening. We currently have one who is remaining with us, but during that same time, we also had our McKinney-Vento and court liaison resign as well. One thing that I had noticed in the past about 1.5 years of being in this position was that a lot of districts have out-of-district coordinators that are doing the court liaison aspect of that job, really because many times they could be identified through special ed or they're referred through special ed, so it helps keep the timelines clear. There's lots of professional development that happens already with the out-of-district coordinators around court liaison and court documents and other areas. So what I am suggesting is taking the out-of-district coordinator position, which really works on our students that are out of district and at charter schools, and also encompassing our court liaison position into that. What this will do is looking at the job description, so that would have a difference in the pay for this part of it, and they would also have 210 days they are working. Our out-of-district coordinators currently work in the summertime, a few days per week. So this would sort of be tying that into their job description.
If I may add, Madam Chair.
Oh, yeah.
We also are repurposing the McKinney-Vento so that we're gonna have a cost savings as well with that. So we're not looking to backfill that position.
So can you tell me what the cost, so this would have to go to finance, because it's an
Yes.
additional cost. So in the future, can we just know what the previous cost was and what the additional cost, or can you explain it now?
I
Just
can.
so that we have it in writing for next time?
So can I explain it now?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I'm just saying for next time, so
Yes.
that we can have it ahead of time would be great.
So currently, these two positions are actually part of the teacher contract. And I believe they are being removed from the teacher contract because they're part of the central office. We've been notified. So we took advantage of that, and then we made them a longer school year. So they are slightly more than the teacher contract. I believe they're also going to 8-hour days. Please confirm that, Ms. Kumu. Great. So 8-hour days, because right now they're teacher work days, which are 7.5-hour days. And we're extending that to 210 days. Our current McKinney-Vento liaison, who recently resigned, what we're doing is we're changing up the responsibilities with the personnel we currently have in our district, so we will not be backfilling that position. And so there's actually going to be a cost savings of about $60,000 with this.
But how much additional is this one?
Oh, I can tell you that right now. Let me just look at the job description. Yes.
It's the 75 to 90.
Yes.
But what was it before?
It was off a teacher contract, so it would be between 41,000. Oh, I just looked at this earlier. And I think 72 or 75.
I just love being put on the spot.
Yeah. But then
So
it
it's
was
about a $20,000, potentially a $20,000 increase, but
Yes.
you're saving how much on the McKinney-Vento?
Well, that current position was 72,000. We are spreading some responsibility, so we have to potentially pay
Yeah.
stipends, so we're really gonna be saving 60,000.
Any questions? Yep, Mr. Pappas.
200-day contract, is that is the equivalent of about 6 weeks in the summer? Is that roughly, am I correct?
I think it's.
Or do they continue
I
working
think
during
it's 4
Christmas
weeks.
break or?
I believe it's
Yeah.
4 weeks.
It's
I
4
think it's
weeks.
about 4 weeks, because they would be doing the 185 days for the, like, the school year side of it, and then plus the additional time. They're currently doing that, so even when we talked about that salary range, they were getting per diem in the summertime as well, so there's more stuff that would be saving there. So they're currently already doing those days.
Is it possible they could go over 210 days and then they'd have to be paid the per diem rate? Is that?
That's not the intent.
No.
The intent is to have, they would take advantage of the I believe if I'm not mistaken, the natural breaks throughout the year. So the February break, the holiday break, the April break, and then they would work the additional 4 weeks during the summer. Which is what they're currently now working now, probably 10 to 15 days during the summer that they need, but we're paying them additional per diem because that's not part of their contract.
It's 5 weeks.
Thank you.
It's how it should.
Okay, any other questions? Does anybody want to make a motion? Mr. Pappas?
I'll make a motion, we move the out-of-district coordinator position, the job description to finance for review and hopefully approval.
So it was a motion made by Mr. Pappas, seconded by Ms. Keynes. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are we gonna post that as well?
If I have permission, yes.
Does the board have any concerns? I think you're good. All right, next is special education administrative assistant.
Very much like I had mentioned before, the current special education teachers are also doing all of the scheduling in the meetings. They are calling, people that need to be around at the table for the IEP meetings, following up with the parents with the consent forms. That's really the work of administrative assistant, so we want to take that load off of the special education teachers to really have them engage more in direct service with children. And so we're repurposing 2 para positions that are unfilled and we do not need for the 2 administrative assistants. Again, to give our special education teachers for free.
Would these be at the elementary, middle school, or high school? Because you said 2.
Yep, so they're gonna be at the elementary schools. So one would be at McClelland, and working through a few different schools. And they would be visiting the schools to make sure they're filing the paperwork and meeting with the case managers as they need to. The other one would be at one of the other elementary schools. So they'll really be tied to the special ed coordinators that are now in the elementary schools.
The middle school and high school already have administrators.
Because we just made the high school one full-time.
Yeah.
So would they move to different schools? So they're one is based at McCollum, but they would move, there would
Yeah,
be
so
a spot for them in another school if
Yeah.
they needed it?
Yep, and then they would go there to do the filing, they'd go there to do any kind of paperwork and that part of it, and then McClellan would be their home that they would go back to. So that would primarily be where they're making the phone calls for parents, and following.
You're gonna have highly qualified, full-time staff that are gonna want it, and I feel like they should get benefits. I mean, we all like our benefits, so why shouldn't they? And then, yeah, I think you're saying, and I agree with you, that some people are paying $400 a week, and we're charging them $400 a month. Why are we not, I get it, we don't wanna make money, but why are we not charging, even if we're giving them a discount of half, like, we're gonna charge you, instead of $100 a week, $200 a week, that's still saving a lot of money, or potentially.
Yeah.
If people, you know what I mean? I think that we need to kind of look at that. You have your hand raised, so I'm
Yeah,
just gonna shoot it to you.
I just want to let you know, we did speak at Cabinet. We want to use this as a retention strategy for our focus area on acquiring and retaining highly qualified talent as part of our strategic plan. So, and I'm sorry, Michelle, we didn't circle back with you, but that is definitely the intent, is for staff to have a preference because it's going to retain our staff. And I agree with you. That's another retention, right? Is providing them benefits, having a 30-35 hour paraeducator where they would have access to benefits.
Especially if we have the revenue. Like, even if we're saying $107,000, because Mr. Kusmano, you put your hand out, because we're gonna call on you after. But even if you're looking at $107,000, if you up it to $150 a week, and you can get that, like, why not do it? We're not charging more than a daycare. We know there's a need for it. It just seems like, why are we nitpicking on getting somebody to not provide benefits?
Yeah.
I just feel like, you know what I mean? I don't know what the rest of the committee feels like, but, I feel like, yeah, I think it's the right thing to do. Any other questions from the committee? Okay. Mr. Kusumani, you had your hand raised.
So I like the program, my kids are in the program, I wish it would have been full-time when my kids were going. I disagree a little bit on the fact of making revenue, but I would look at a two-tier system. One, teaching staff, I would have no problems sucking up a little bit of money even if we went to more than 27 hours to give them a lower rate. That goes to retention, that goes towards their benefits. It's a great program. I say if we went outside of our district or our staff members, then maybe we look at $600 a month, which still would be way under for what the city's paying on average for a 5-day-a-week program. I would definitely recommend our staff first, even if this board's gotta come up with a little bit of extra money and two full-time people with benefits. And then maybe you offset it because you keep 6 lots for the outside community, or however you wanna do it, but I think it would go to retention, and help keeping our staff members here and give them a lower cost. And their children is right there if they're at the high school or at least real close.
I don't wanna skip you, you're good. Mr. Bells?
Thank you. I agree with the folks that have mentioned, if we could prioritize staff here, I think that would just be an excellent idea from a staff retention standpoint. That amounts to a pretty big benefit that person receives by being able to keep their kids close by for a reasonable cost. I wonder, because it's been a couple years since my children were in daycare, but the price that you mentioned would be pretty appealing. I could see demand for that. Is there room to expand where the current location is if the demand was there and the staffing was available?
If the board wants to, build an addition and,
Sure.
yeah,
Okay.
I would be very open to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to know. And then you mentioned that the hours would be 7 to 4. We have like a lead teacher there that's on a teacher contract. Are they on a different contract, or how do you cover those like extended hours that extend beyond like the teacher's contracted day?
So that's where the paraeducator would come in, because the teacher, I have to make sure that they have prep, I need to make sure that they have lunch. I have to follow all of the, the contract. And so when we were working it out, that paraeducator would be more in the afternoon and covering that prep and that lunch.
Sure, thank you. And then I 100% agree. It was one of the first things I thought about at the 27.5 hours is if there's a way that we can get our paras full-time and with benefits, I think that's another retention strategy. Although I will say, Madam Chair, that some people are interested in very specific paraeducator roles and not, so I could see people that would love to work in a preschool, but they really don't have any interest in being a paraeducator at a higher level. And so again, you might just attract different applicants by being open to that possibility, I think. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess my suggestion is this for, when are we looking to have this started?
I would like to do it next year if possible.
So my suggestion would be, can we table it, kind of fix it a little bit, and then, because I think it's really good. I just think, for me, I don't care if we call it a paraeducator. I think if we're gonna have, we need a full-time staff, I think, and we don't have to, I don't know that it needs to be an educator, I don't, you know what I mean? So that's on you, whatever you feel you need. I think it's a very good supportive thing, and I think exactly what Mr. Cusimano said. We don't need to make a revenue, even if we have to put in a little towards it. I don't know that that's out of the realm. But I think if you're gonna do a program like this, let's do it right and let's get some full-time staff so that it's covered, because you're open 9 hours. So it's gonna be really difficult to say we have 16 kids, we have to staff 2 of them, but we're only gonna have 1 full-time and a paraeducator for a 9-hour program. I think that if we could just kind of maybe fix little of those fine details and bring it back, does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I think this board is going to approve it once, I can't speak for the committee, but I think once those fine details are fixed, it's a great thing. And again, I think the board has spoken to say we'd like it to go towards staff in the district first, because it'd be a huge thing for them. I see more hands raised. I want to make sure the committee doesn't. Yes, Mr. Guzmano?
And I would just play with the times a little bit to make sure that the staff members have time to get to schools, especially if we're gonna push this towards staff.
We did that.
Yeah.
We actually took that into account.
Perfect. Mr. Bellows?
Thank you. Does this program run just during the school year, or is it a year-round program?
Just during the school year, we're gonna follow the school district calendar.
Thank you.
That's great. What about the magnet school? No, just curious.
What about, the
Because
magnet?
they call
we
it the
can-
schedule.
Oh,
Extended.
Something, can you just add that on the list of things to consider? Mr.
Well, I wasn't gonna, my things were answered, but I was just gonna say, it's contingent upon having high school students there, so if they're out and
Correct.
you have
Yeah.
2 or 3 more weeks, they're not there to work or to gain that experience. So.
Mr.
Do the high school kids get paid, or is it just part of their curriculum?
So, very good question.
Thanks.
So,
He has them every once in a
Once in a
while.
blue moon it happens.
when we did it before and it was an extended past the high school hours, those students did get paid.
The 2:30 to 4.
And I think I did mention that in there, and I apologize, I didn't mention that, but yes, they did get paid.
Just
and-
those 2:30 to 4 kids?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, during the school day,
That's part of their
it's part
curriculum.
of their curriculum.
But if you did add it extra in the morning, there would be a cost potentially.
If I added students in the morning,
Yeah,
yeah,
so.
it would only
They
be a
start at
half
7:30.
hour.
Yeah.
Just curious. Okay. So do we need a motion to table it for next month, or do we just bring it forward again next
We'll bring it
month?
up next month.
Okay, so so my charge then to come back is to adjust the costs, correct?
So Annie took notes, so she'll connect with you and tell you everything that we need.
Okay, perfect.
Because I didn't write it all down, so.
I just want to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to get
Yep.
this through.
She
My
will
goal is
connect
to
with you and
get
let
it
you know.
through, and we need to start September.
that would be the goal. So yeah, she will connect with you and let you know all of that, because she wrote it all down.
All right, thank you.
She's our boss.
Thank you, Michelle.
Think we're hers.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks. And we have one more presentation. Mr. Gilpatrick from the middle school.
Hi, good evening. It's just one course, and I just want to kind of go over the last 3 years. We've really taken and tried to expand our Unified Arts program, and we've taken positions that we couldn't really find teachers for and rebranded them. So we've added a third art teacher, we've added business journalism. Last year, we were fortunate enough, we presented on robotics, and you guys pushed it forward, and it's been a huge success. I mean, I was in the hallway today, and they were all kind of training their XRP robots. It's a really neat process, a lot of cool things happening. They're getting into 3D printing. And so it's a really neat pathway as they get into the high school, and all kinds of kids are interested in it, 6 through 8. This position, right now, we're looking for a health occupation first responder unified art class. And we're really trying to give kids another experience of that hands-on, something that they can really use outside of school, inside of school, thinking about safety, careers, if they want to get their CPR, first aid. Eventually, they want to go into a program, they want to get their LNA. There's other programs as they get to the high school that it could kind of start something, whether it's sports medicine, health science, technology, biomed, medical assisting, or other STEM-related fields. So I really think it's a neat opportunity for our students.
So you have on here one certified health science educator. How much is that going to cost?
I don't have the exact cost right now, but
Probably be similar to
it'd be,
7.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be something that you'd want to provide for us next time, because if we're gonna pass this to finance, we have to have a hard number. So, are we adding the 107?
107, that's the number.
Mr. Cusmato, was it 107?
Well, that's 2 years from now if you did the current average, so.
We would be looking for next year.
It would be
So
for next year.
So what's that number?
103, 105,
Which one? Give me a number.
I do up to 105.
Okay, up to 105.
And that's going based off of our current increase on insurances and all that other stuff.
That's why you're here.
And
Yeah,
this is,
just
this is
so
some-
next time we have to pass it to finance, so
Yep.
we can't just not have a number on there. So it would be 105, and then it would be $5,000 for supplies and software.
Correct.
Do you know what software you would be using?
Not currently, no. We're looking at programs at the high school, and we probably have to get some supplies connected to CPR first aid as well.
right, blood pressure
Yep.
machines and other medical supplies. We looked at other schools to look at what supplies they have at this point. So it's a baseline.
Yes, Mr.
I'm assuming we could use grants as well for the supplies.
Yes, and we have done that for robotics. That's how we were able to get we got 7 3D printers through that.
I think my concern is I'd like to know what software you're gonna be, like if we're gonna be talking about doing a class like this, I'd like to know what software you're potentially wanna be using and what supplies you're gonna need. So like, if you look at the other slides where Ms. Hallican Foley had, I would like more information. I don't know about the rest of the committee, but I'd like to know what you're looking for as far as supplies and software, because I think that's important for us to know.
Well, typically when we can put some specifics
Yep.
down, but typically when we present this, like we did with the robotics last year, we went out to other programs, we got feedback from the programs, what the estimate is for starting a robotics program. Every program's going to be a little different. So we were just looking at what are some of the base costs to get started. There's online first aid courses that you can purchase, but there's not only one that we would purchase, and there's not one curriculum that we would purchase for this program.
Right,
So-
but I think robotics and an actual academic class are a little, in my opinion, they're weighed out a little differently. I think when you're saying you're looking for a program with robotics, it's a little different. So I think for me, if you're gonna present something like this, and I don't speak for everybody else, but if you're saying you want how do you know that you're gonna only spend 5,000? Like,
Well,
how did
we
you
did
come?
the same thing
I
with,
wasn't finished. How do you know that you're only gonna need that $5,000 for supplies and software? If we're looking at specific software, even come and tell us, hey, we have 3 different softwares that we're looking at, and these are the prices of them. I just wanna make sure that if we're approving something, that we know what specifically we're approving. Again, that's just me,
Yep.
it could be different, but go
And
ahead.
the practices we've gone through in the past with these new UA positions is to build upon it. And so robotics, we started with the 5,000. That's all we had, and then we started exploring grants and seeing what we could add to it and build upon that. So
Okay.
that we would follow the same path.
Mr. Pappas?
I love the idea. I think that it is potentially a sort of stepping stone into the CTE program. I don't have a problem with the $5,000 fee. I don't think we've ever asked for specifics about what specific software we're gonna be asking for. So I don't have a problem with that, and I intend to push it to the finance committee. Sure.
Yes, Mr. Downs?
I'm kind of on board. I understand where Mr. Stokes is coming from, but I am definitely on board with this class, and I would, I'm obviously not on this committee, but moving it forward, but just getting maybe an update once you do a little more research on it but I think it's a great class, and it opens up the students' minds at a younger age to figure out what they want to do in the future.
I think it's a great class, I think it's a great idea, I think if you partnered with Frisbee, you partnered with the fire department, they could help you out. As submitted like this, I would kill it at finance, and I would not even put it in a budget line. I think you need to come back with real numbers, real dollars. Last year, we were talking about cutting teachers, when we sat here on the budget, and now you want us to spend up to this amount, or is $5,000 gonna happen, or are you gonna come back and ask for more money? I think if you did a little more homework and got it to finance, by the time we had our finance committee, I'd fully support it and get it pushed through. But without hard numbers, I'm gonna shoot it down and move on to people that have done a little more homework and given us our numbers. But I like the idea, I like the program. I'd really reach out to like the fire department, and they could probably give you a lot of those numbers.
So the fire department, we actually have been working with their educator. I was just with Maria the other day, and they're looking to have CPR, do some CPR training with our students this year, and working with us within our health classes. But certainly, we, in the past, we haven't, asked for an extra UA. So this is the first one in the last 3 years that we're asking. This is a new position, right? And we definitely have collapsed some positions in general ed teaching positions
And
as
I
well.
think in response to what you said, you're right, but how much does a CPI or somebody who's gonna provide first aid, how much is a certified first aid, and are we using an AED, are we not? Like, that's gonna cost money. So when somebody comes in and does a CPR first aid, what amount is that? So exactly what Mr. Cusimano said. Is it a full-time position that we're looking for? Could we get away with a part-time position? If we're gonna really do this class, which I agree with Mr. Pappas, we need this. This is a great thing to have. But I don't know that I'm comfortable passing this to finance when we don't even know how much a full-time, or somebody coming into a CPR, teaching us a CPR class, and what they're actually teaching, because there's so many different CPR classes. But I think the middle school, they want to start babysitting, they might need a CPR class. So I think this is great. I think we just need more numbers. How do we pass this to the finance committee when we are talking about specific classes, but we don't know how much that stuff's gonna cost? I think it's a little different from the robotics. And I know you want to respond, so I'm gonna give you a chance. But that's what I'm saying, is we need more definitive numbers to pass this on.
No, I'm not disagreeing, I don't want to see us miss a chance to have this class in our school next year. So my question is how much time, would this push us so we would not be able to have this in our class if we don't approve this at the full board come January? Are we going to delay it from being in our school next year?
So just for background, and I appreciate these asks, we talked to the cabinet, and this was something that we put on the budget proposal. So those numbers were already calculated into moving forward. We had 12 positions that were cut from the middle school. We've been trying to grow out of that for a couple of years now. And this is one of those high-need pathways positions. For the supplies, usually right when we get this passed, these guys are working hard to go and get everything in order. So they go, they start planning, they actually reach out and get the numbers after. By no means can we go over 5,000. That is the number, the threshold, so we don't come back and ask for more, we may plan for it forward.
But if you need it, we want you to have it.
it is a starting, and the other thing that we've done with business, with robotics, is we attach that teacher to the programs at the high school. And so first, we reached out to Michelle Halligan-Foley and said, what are the needs, like your students coming into your programs, what could they benefit from? And so we started there, and so we would build, like I said, slowly build it up each year, and look at what are the needs cost-wise each year as we grow the program.
Can I just ask you your opinion? I don't wanna put you on the spot, but I mean, if we held it off and had it come back next month, is that, what would you suggest?
I would suggest we hold it off until next month.
I mean, cause
And it's not-
again,
And it's not gonna affect it because we could still roll it into the budget and have it in the budget workbook and always remove it if it's not passed in February.
I've given you a chance, I know that other people, but I will come back to you. Mr. Bellows.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I have a couple questions more just about the structure of UAs, if you don't mind. So what do we currently offer at the middle school for Unified Arts?
For all Unified Arts?
Sure, yeah.
So we have chorus band, we have art, we have business, we have journalism, we have robotics, we have reading tier, math tier, French, Spanish, forget anything, health, did I say health? And that is, I think, the core. But we have 3 art teachers, we have 3 PE teachers, we have 1 chorus, 1 band teacher, they're teaching 6th through 8th grade.
Do the students rotate through all the UAs, or do they sign up for ones that they're interested in?
The goal is to get them exposed to all of them. Sometimes one of the things we've talked about as a kid that's a really good artist the goal is to get them more art classes. Guidance counselors are meeting with kids regularly and talking about their choices, and we really try to get them something that they're interested in within that year, if not the following year.
And then the last question I have is just, so what does that schedule look like then? I think we're on trimesters at the middle school.
Yep.
So how long does a UA last for a kid?
For 1 trimester. So unless it's band, chorus, and we have a full year of Spanish course.
And they do 1 UA a trimester, or is there multiple?
2, yep,
Okay,
yep.
thank you.
Yep, go ahead, Ms.
Can I make a suggestion that we, if it's possible, that we pass the course itself and that finance, we will have everything ready by the first Thursday in January for finance with a complete picture of what the numbers look like. Or actually just essentially the TLSS will be passing the course itself and the 1 teacher.
Mr. Bell?
Yeah, I'm kind of on board. I don't want to delay there, because I'm sure they got to do a lot more digging into what's going to be in this course, and just pushing it back a month. I think, like she said, we can approve the course, and then they can come forward with the finance numbers. And they said up to 5,000, and let's say they need more, they just know they'll have to come to the board to request more. I just don't want to delay and put more work on our administration to get the curriculum rolling on it.
I don't disagree, and I ask your guidance, but I feel like this can't come through us this way again. Like, if we're talking about a CPR course, we need to know how much a certified CPR person is gonna be. If there is a certified health or science education teacher, I wanna know how much, so we're gonna basically send something to finance and we don't even have a number. So that makes me really uncomfortable. I think I can be in support of doing it potentially with the rest of the board. I'm kind of teetering because we have really good proposals and then we have one like this. And again, I think it's great. I think we need it. I don't, please know that I'm just probably being a little bit of a hard ass, but I feel like we need to have that information in order to submit it to finance. I mean.
Can I respond?
I think Shane wants to, but yeah, you can.
I just want to say, anytime we hire a teacher, it's a teacher contract. So we can never give you the exact amount, because it could be it would be a step 5 teacher, it could be a step 10. So the high end would be if we have a high end teacher, step 10, step 15, right? Plus benefits could carry us over 100K, but we wouldn't be able to be so precise to let you know what that number is.
But to have no number does anybody else on the board want to say anything?
Yes.
Oh, well, other people have their hand, we have to calm down.
No, I just agree with you. I
Okay,
think-
Mr. Pappas.
I think this proposal is like almost any other proposal we've had. Keep in mind, this is not a CTE program. It is
Up on meeting paperwork and also coordinating the meetings themselves, so.
Do we find that having the full-time administrative assistant at the high school is taking the burden off the special ed teachers?
Yes, and right now what we are working on is working with the middle school and high school, also on what those tasks are being done by the special ed administrative assistants, so then that way we're having it be uniform throughout the district. We also have noticed a great increase at the REACH, because REACH also does have an admin assistant that was added earlier this year. That's been really helpful for the special ed teachers there.
Sorry, I should have asked questions from the committee. Special ed, I just get excited. Mr. Pappas?
Amy, you said we're repurposing Paris because they're not needed?
Yeah,
Or
we can't
because
fill them.
They're not needed,
Or just
those are the
because we
ones in the
can't fill
pocket. No, those are the ones, we have several in the pocket, so we keep them in the pocket. For example, if we have an incoming student that moves into the district that comes with a one-on-one on their IEPs, we still have several in the pocket. Still in the pocket, but we're gonna use these two that are unfilled, that are not currently needed, to repurpose for this position, for these two positions.
Can you just, so you're taking two paraprofessionals that are currently hired as paraprofessionals and you're moving them to a special ed?
No, they're unfilled. These two positions are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is an unfilled position, but we don't have a need for that. So in the pocket just confused me.
Sorry, we call them in the pocket when we don't need them currently, and they're unfilled.
So they're unfilled, we don't need them, so we're gonna put this out, we're hoping to put this out. Okay, Mr. White?
So what would the plan be for that if they became necessary? We did need them, but we've repurposed them in a situation.
We still have quite a number of pairs in the pocket that are unfilled.
We had over 50 at one point. Anybody else on the committee? Mr. Downs?
You love calling us when we get it. Is this a full year or a school year position?
This would be a school year position.
27 and a half hours.
Is it 20 hours?
Yep.
So it's part-time? Right.
It's considered.
It is
Part-time,
part-time.
no benefit, none of that?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's looking at the pair positions that we currently have available. Again, we'd be looking at how this position is working and then seeing what needs to be changed for next year.
Mr.
I think it's a great use, but we've already repurposed 4 paras. We're about to repurpose 2 more that we could use. So what number do we have left that we could use?
So we don't need any right now. They're in the pocket,
Right.
we're keeping them in there. We
But
have.
we might need them because if a child comes in with a need, we need that para now. And what I don't want is you to come to us and go, well, I repurposed them all and now I need another 50 grand.
So I
So-
will not be doing that.
That's what I'm asking, how many are left,
So
because
I'm-
it's not 50.
And I agree with you. I'm gonna say, as a special ed advocate who would
I'm
never
all
wanna
about
get rid of
this.
a para position, that would never happen, because an IEP is a legal binding contract, and if there's a need for it, they have to do it. So even if it's in the pocket, out of the pocket, way in the garbage, they have to do it, and they would never not do it. But I think this special ed administrative assistant, you have one at the high school, you have one at the middle school, it alleviates the special ed teacher to be able to not have to do that administrative role, and then they can be in the classrooms with their students more. So it's a great thing. Normally, I don't like administrative, like, you know what I mean? Normally, I'm like, oh, get them in the classroom, but this would alleviate the special ed teachers to be able to be in the classrooms more, which I think is really, really important, because they're the ones that do a lot of the things with the students. So I understand your concern, but
How many are left? I
Yeah.
completely, 100%, I'll give up 2 more for these, but
Yeah.
how many are left is my question, because it's not 50. That list was getting pretty small when we repurposed down to 4.
I think when we need it, though, we can just post it. I don't think there's like a
Oh,
definitive
no, I'm just asking
amount.
how many are
Yeah.
left in the pocket, because we also use the in-the-pocket positions to pay for teacher salaries.
If my current spreadsheet is correct, Ms. Camus, we have 14.
Okay, so that's a good number to be safe with. I just didn't want us to be down to 5 and then go, we're repurposing, now we're down to 3. Likelihood by the end of the year, we could have 3 special ed
Right.
kids that do need. The
Correct.
likelihood of getting 14?
Slim to none.
Exactly.
I do think, though, I know we just hired the high school at a full-time, and I know that we're concerned about like insurance purposes and stuff, but I just, it bothers me that we hire them at a 27.5 capacity, knowing that we could potentially need a full-time. So I'm assuming we're hiring at that level because we're looking at the budget, but hopefully there's gonna be a need for it, and we'll be looking. Look at that, you are just so quick.
So we have to stick with what the budget was for FY '25, so and that, they were budgeted for 27.5, but the intent is for them to go to 30, because it's a human thing to do, of course, as long as it works in our budget.
I hate just hiring just because we want to not give them insurance. I agree with the human part of it. All right, do we have any motions? Mr. Pappas?
Yes, I'm the motion maker.
You are the motion maker.
I would move that we send the special education administrative assistant position to the full board for approval.
Second.
So motion by Mr. Pappas, seconded by Mrs. Wigan. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Again, I think Ms. Arzaloza is going to ask if we are in favor of posting it ahead of time.
As anticipated.
As anticipated. I would say for all of these, unless we direct you not to, I would say that you have the go-ahead.
Great, thank you.
So, just in case we forget. All right, the next one is school culture and climate specialist.
So these came back from last month and then last week at the board meeting, and so I have now included the rationale under each one. These again are not going to be billed until FY '26, and they are intended to be also grant funded, so they will not be part of our general fund. And so we brought them back.
Yes, Mr. White?
So if we approve this and you weren't able to secure the grant for it, then it would just goes up to.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, didn't hear it. And
Sorry about that.
any other discussion?
No.
Ms. Keynes?
Yeah, does this mean we eliminate the police officers that are in the building?
Oh, no.
Why not? They're all doing the same things, right? Aren't these people gonna be duplicating the service?
No,
I mean, they're not gonna break up fistfights, I get that, but we aren't having many of those, so I just, it looks like duplicative services to me.
So the culture and climate, if I may, Madam
You
Chair.
may always, feel free.
The culture and climate specialists are really going to be focusing on incentivizing students for positive behavior, so really PBIs across the district, strengthening social emotional competencies of the children, working with the wellness instructors in the wellness rooms with children that are dysregulated, making sure that, you know, if they're in the classroom, they're dysregulated, that they have a space, a calming space, we remove them from the classroom. And so the culture and climate specialists are also working with low incident classroom disruptions, right? So that they can, you know, in other words, the teachers can continue instructing children, but that the child may be removed temporarily to just help them regulate.
Okay.
So the police can't do that, correct?
No, they cannot. They cannot do that.
Sorry.
But we have all these people doing this, we don't need the police.
Oh,
Miss- Mr. Pappas?
Is this also kind of known as the safety team?
Yes, it is exactly that.
Okay,
Okay.
so we have these already, we're just looking to add a couple more.
Yeah, so we have them in the high school, and we've seen an incredibly, we have seen incredible positive impact. And so what we're doing is we want to really spread the wealth and have them in the middle school and the elementary school.
Anybody else in the committee have? I think the concern for me is if you don't have this and a child acts up and the teacher has to then refocus on the special ed student, everybody in the classroom loses their academic, and then the teacher then has to try to refocus everybody, and it just takes so much time away. Having a staff member that can come in and help that will hopefully help the student with a disability, and hopefully maybe even get in there before a major behavior happens, because the teacher can then call somebody instead of trying to struggle with it. And then if that staff member takes the child out and the rest of the class can get an education, I think when a student, and I'm not saying it's a student's fault by any means, when a special ed student has a behavior and the impact on the typical or the regular classroom is tremendous, and I think it's not great. So I think this is a good balance, because then hopefully you're gonna have less classroom behaviors, you're gonna have less, you know, shutdowns or safety in place, whatever you call them, less evacuations, because somebody can come in and take that student and help them. And hopefully, again, they're gonna hit the targets before they happen. So I think that's what this is for, and I don't think the police are in the building for that. The police are in there to build community awareness and support. Enforce the law. Thank you, Mr. Pappas. Are you making the motion? I think other people had questions first. Did anybody else have any comments on here? Mr. Downs?
I just want to just go off of Mrs. Keene's comment, like, I know both our SROs personally, and they do great things in our schools, and we definitely need them in our middle school and high school, so that's all I want to do, and I want to thank them for what they do in our schools.
They do a tremendous amount of work. All those police officers, whoever they are, great amount of work. Mr. Pappas?
Well, I have a question.
Oh, Mr.
Well,
Keane.
first I'd like to respond over there. and
Sure,
say
do
My
it.
son-in-law is a resource officer, so I get all about it. I know all about it, what he does all day long. The other thing is, how many of these people do we have? Is this what we used to call a truancy officer?
No.
No.
So,
How many of these people are we in hiring?
So we'd like a culture and climate specialist in each of our schools. Right now, our high school has 4, because it's a large building. And then for the instructional coaches, we're looking to hire at least 1 for the high school, 1 for the middle school, and we'd like to have 3 instructional coaches to be shared for the 6 elementary schools. And then the wellness instructor.
We're not there yet. We're just talking about the school culture and climate.
Yep.
Let's focus on that one.
Got it.
So, school culture and climate, how many are you looking for?
I'll tell you right now. 9.
So 1 in every building.
1 in every building, but middle school, because it's larger, we need more. So we're
And do we
looking,
have it in the budget?
these are the grant funded positions.
Okay.
Yes.
So we don't have to pay for them, Sandy.
Pardon me?
We don't-
I'm all set.
Okay.
I'm gonna vote no. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd rather change my vote and vote yes and get rid of the cops, but other than that.
Okay, feisty tonight.
Yeah, well.
Mr. Pappas.
Your pajamas set me off.
It's- Did you have to call it out when it's being recorded?
There you go.
Just saying. All right, Mr. Pappas.
Before I make a motion, I just want to say, I am concerned that this is coming out of the Jewel settlement and just that,
It's not.
I thought you said it was.
No. One position will from Jewel, but the
Okay.
rest will be our entitlement grants.
Okay,
Sorry
good.
about that.
I would like to move the school culture and climate specialist position to we're going to finance or to the full board?
Finance.
Well, no, not if it's, if it's grant funded?
Great funding.
That's
It's
it.
not coming out of our budget.
Okay.
Do we
To
have
the
grants
full board.
currently in place for the pay
This is
for
for
it?
FY '26. This is not for this year.
So it would have to go to finance eventually unless the grants are funded.
Well, grant funded,
Which still has to go into the budget, which still has to be allocated, which still has to go through finance
So-
eventually.
whatever.
Correct me if I'm wrong, we're approving the job title
Correct.
and
Not
description.
the actual person.
But we would post the position, so we would want to move it to finance, I think. Right? Just move it to finance and let them figure it out.
Second.
Okay.
So Miss,
yeah.
oh,
So moved.
yep, motion by Mr. Pappas, seconded by Mrs. Wigan. You could fill in the rest, because I don't remember what we said. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry.
No.
All those opposed? Yes.
So if we're saying that that's gonna go to finance, then they all gotta go to finance then? Is that what we're saying?
Anything that's cost
Well, this one's
neutral.
grant funded, the other ones were,
Repurposed.
yeah, so the other ones were not a cost, an additional cost to the district. So I know we have instructional, but can I ask, because I know you're still here and I know the rest of them are not special ed, correct? I was asked by a parent to ask you a question, so can I just, are we okay if I just pause it? Because I don't want her to have to stay here if you don't need to. So if a student were to have in their IEP that they get 3 hours of one-on-one support, and let's say we don't have the para, or like for whatever reason we weren't be able to provide those supports, does the parent, are we obligated to tell the parent that we were not able to provide those supports, or is that something that we don't have to notify parents
No,
of?
we definitely should be notifying parents if we're not able to provide a service. Unfortunately, paras are difficult to find, so we do have those openings. But what we've worked through this year is the idea that if we don't have staff, really our one-on-one should be covered. And I hadn't heard about a one-on-one not being covered, but they should be covered for that side. If we're into shared para and we're not able to cover it then that's when we should be calling the parents parents saying, let's get back together as a team, what can we do differently while we're continuing to look for another para.
And they didn't say that they weren't.
Okay,
They just
okay.
were asking a general question, and I
Gotcha,
said, I
okay.
don't know.
Gotcha.
I suggested they reach out to you, so, but I know that you were gonna move back, so I just wanted to, so
Yeah.
if it's three, let's say it's three, I'm just using
Yep.
3 as general. If it's 3 hours a day,
Yep.
and they don't get it for that day, do you wait until a meeting to notify, or do you notify that day, that week, just for clarification?
I think it would depend. I think it's also looking at, is it a lapse because a person was out that day, or is it a lapse because we don't have a staff member? So I think there's differences with that part of it. Sometimes if we don't have a staff and they call out sick, typically, usually what will happen is either the special ed teacher does more check-ins that day, or another staff member does it.
So I know this was kind of just put on you. I know
Yeah.
that sometimes you come and present. Can
Yeah.
you maybe present on that, so that way we get more information on that? Because it was requested by a parent, so
Yeah.
I think it'd be, so all
Yep.
those scenarios?
Sure.
Like what would happen, when they would get contacted potentially?
Yeah.
What the legality would be of it, or what we do to, is that something that you're comfortable with?
You want it next TLS?
Just next one or even the one after that, I just think if we could compile some information, because when parents reach out, I think it's really great. And they loved that you come here and they're watching it, so I think that's really, really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you could maybe have something like that, and then we put it on the agenda so that they can watch that.
Yeah, sounds good.
I know you love to present.
I do.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. That's why I wanted you to stay at the table, because I was like, don't leave. All right, so now we're back on to instructional coach. Oh,
I just have a question, point of clarity, I guess. For the culture and climate specialist, the instructional coach, I guess wellness instructor, you stated they're going to be grant-funded positions.
Correct.
Have we already secured the grant for this?
So we have carryover money for the 24-25 money, 24-25 school year that we can allocate for that. So our grants are for 24 months, they're not yearly.
Okay, so the answer is yes?
Yes.
So you have the funding already?
Yes, partly. If not, I'm gonna use the 25-26. I can't give you a definitive answer, but I will be utilizing some of the money. Again, but it's not until FY26, I won't be hiring anyone until next school year.
I understand, but going back to previously, we talked about posting these, once they're approved, is getting them posted for the winter break here, right?
For anticipated, yes,
For anticipated.
correct.
But if they're grant funded, we haven't secured the grant because they're not out of the budget.
So we have one already that's gonna be dual funded, and and that's already been approved by the finance committee and the full board, one of each of these positions. And so we do have, I can't tell you exactly the number with our 24-25 Title I grant and our Title II grant. We can potentially fill half of them, but I'd have to do more research on that. Each of our entitlement grants are for 24 months.
are you comfortable if she gets that information to you and tells you how many she can by email?
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
curious, as far as, previously we talked about posting these for the winter break.
Yeah.
And being grant-funded positions, if we haven't secured the grant, it's what the gist of my question was.
Yeah.
If we haven't secured the grant,
Yes.
right?
These are entitlement grants. We get them every year regardless.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't clarify
Okay.
that.
Thank you. So, with lack of better terms, this is guaranteed.
Yes, it's guaranteed.
Thank you.
Did you have a question about the other one or this one?
Actually, I got right on here.
Okay, sure.
Go with Dave and actually agree. They might be entitlement grants, but it's not a guarantee. So I would like to see those grants actually, the paperwork and stuff, because there's a lot of things going on right now in the United States. And some articles I've sent you from New Hampshire, those entitlement grants might not be the dollar amount we are. And the last thing I wanna see is now we burnt through that and we gotta pay these people.
It's a great thing for finance, so if you could put it on their agenda, that'd be great. Back to instructional coach. I do think it's a good question, but it's a finance question.
I just have a point of,
Point of order?
well, maybe not that.
Just-
Maybe
let's
that's
jump
not,
in.
that might not be the right lingo. But, so, culture and climate specialist, instructional coach, and wellness instructor went to the full board last month and got pushed back from the full board. So
'Cause
do
we
they
wanted-
have to go to finance, or do they go back to the full board?
We're gonna send it to finance because they want it, so we'll just send it to them and then they'll send it to the full board and then they'll be all a happy, happy family. No, we already done it once, so we're just, now you're getting them off.
Yeah, but the chair of finance, maybe he doesn't want it at finance.
We don't care.
The chair of finance sets the agenda.
I guess he better send us. Anyway, moving on, Matt Pappas has to get home at some point, he has to teach in the morning. Instructional coach, I think of you, Matt.
So I also included the rationale for the instructional coach. Again, this came through the full school board last month, or last week, and then the full the Tlss committee last month. These are instructional coaches to build the capacity of our teachers. For example, a newer teacher may need some help, whether it's with curriculum or classroom management. So it's building their capacity in service of the children that we serve. And so I'm looking to hire, again, these would be grant funded, these are entitlement grants. We do already have one of each individual settlement, it was already approved. So I'm looking for at least one in high school, one in the middle school, and then 3 to be shared with the elementary schools.
Any questions? Mr. Pappas?
I can see some need for this. However, what I don't see, I'm looking through the rationale and I'm looking through all the purpose and the background information, the responsibilities and experience and what have you. I don't see supervision duties. I don't see administrative duties. The certification is for an educator, not an administrator. We're looking for experienced educators. So I don't see why this isn't on the teacher contract as opposed to administrator. So I just don't see administrative duties here.
I'm gonna just have Dr. Bryant, I know we hashed it out with the union actually earlier this week, and I'm gonna have Dr. Bryant potentially speak to it.
Sure, yeah, it's a good question and something that we had a lot of conversation about. I think the expectation for this position is there's going to be a lot of time in classrooms. The schedule might look different than a teacher's schedule. In addition, after hour meetings, after school meetings with administration that are beyond a regular teacher contract, that would be part of the expectation. So it's a little bit more, there's a little bit more of an expectation both time-wise and collaborating with administrators in a different way.
Okay. Do you see their feedback being used in evaluations by administrators?
It wouldn't be an evaluative position, so it really would be at that coaching level. The nice part about that is, you know, there's a little bit more of an ease in that relationship that takes the evaluative piece out of it, if that makes sense. So the intent is really to get people, highly skilled educators, into classrooms to support our teachers on, right on the ground. We're finding, as you know, a lot of teachers now are coming through different pathways than the traditional teacher certification programs, and so we're finding that the needs in the classroom right away they're just different and unique and just require a different level of interaction with somebody who can be right there with them.
Okay.
Along with working with administrators, to set some goals and to think about where, set the priorities for the buildings.
And the union, the teachers' union, they agreed to that?
They were fine, actually.
Okay. Just one other question here. It says that is expected to take on a leading role in our instructional leadership team. Is that what you were just referring to, the principal, maybe the assistant principal?
Principal, assistant principal, curriculum coordinators. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Ms. Keynes?
Yeah, so is this like a mentor?
In some ways, but really the focus is on high-quality instruction, instructional strategies. So there would be sort of like a mentoring piece with our teachers who need that type of support.
Do you actually think you're going to find that person for $65,000 a year? That's going to know more than the classroom teachers they're dealing with? I don't get it.
It's 70 to 85,000. The instructional coach, it's 70 to 85,000. Just so.
I guess they were looking on a long sheet of paper. Oh,
Maybe.
Okay.
Sorry.
I just
wanted to make sure.
I don't.
It's a different type of teacher leadership role as well. So there are teachers who are looking for a little bit of a different kind of role, and this provides them with an opportunity to practice their leadership skills as well with our administrative team, while also providing high quality support right in the classroom.
Better be high quality. I don't get it, but, okay.
Anybody else on the committee? Yeah, we're gonna do it, yeah. So my question is, we have a lot of mentors that we pay stipends for, are we eliminating those? Because there would be no need for that at that point.
Well, but I think the mentoring program's a little bit different, and it's not they certainly check in with their teachers. A lot of that is around some of the day-to-day, it's not necessarily focused just on instruction. It's kind of all those other pieces of teaching, how do you enter grades, or some of the other aspects of being an educator in the school district, but this would be really focused on classroom instruction.
So I guess my concern is, I don't think that it's not needed, but I don't think we need both. So I think to be fiscally responsible, we need to look at how many teacher mentors, what are we spending right now on mentors for the teachers? And if that's the case, I would think that this role could take that on. I think their focus needs to be on new staff, but that sounds like this is something, you know what I mean? If you're a seasoned staff and you're somebody that has experience, you don't really need a potential instructional coach unless you're learning something new, which I think at that point, but I feel like we're kind of dipping into the same pond there. So I would think that we should be looking at how many mentors we have, what we're paying for those stipends, and eliminating that, because this is paid for by Jewel for now, but I mean, that's something that if we have enough stipends, because we have a lot of stipends for teacher mentors.
I can offer a potential solution.
Yeah.
So if there's a teacher that is identified as needing some professional growth by a principal, then I think that the instructional coach would step in as their mentor and their instructional coach. And so for purposes of the instructional coach leading and growing professionally, certainly let's say half a dozen teachers, they would also be mentoring those 6 teachers. That would make sense to me.
So are you saying eliminating some of the mentors?
Just for the teachers that they're working with though. So for example, if a teacher's identified as, you know, they're a new teacher, they're a career changer, they are struggling with classroom management and setting up routines and rituals for their children, they can mentor that teacher, but also help build their capacity with classroom management. Does that make sense?
I feel like I'm not understanding what you're saying. So let me just make sure I understand it. So every year, we have a set amount of mentors that we pay stipends to. I would think that we would look at those stipends, and if we have a mentor, let's say there is somebody that really needs one-on-one coaching, and I would think they would come forward individually versus, hey, every year we have all of these mentor positions and let's approve them all at once. I think at that point, if we're hiring this, we need to look at those mentoring positions and be like, how many can we potentially eliminate? Because this person sounds like they would be coaching or mentoring. I kind of look at the two together.
But they're not only coaching new teachers. So the mentors, right, the mentorships are only for our newer teachers, and we're actually building a much more robust program. It's going to be a potentially 3-year mentoring and induction program we're building. That's really as a retention strategy. So if I'm looking at an instructional coach working with a teacher who might be a career changer, again, struggling with classroom management, and they're a first-year teacher, they're going to need a mentor. So if they're already working with an instructional coach, I would suggest the instructional coach also serve as their mentor. So then they're not being paid that additional stipend to someone else. The instructional coach is essentially working with them, mentoring them, right, if they're a first-year teacher. But however, there are teachers that might be in their 5th year that might need some additional, professional learning. They may need to build their capacity. So they don't need a mentor already. They've already gone through that program, but they may need to build their capacity. And so for that particular teacher, they don't have a mentor, but the instructional coach can still work with that teacher.
But I'm just gonna, yeah. I think hold on, calm down. I think for me, we have to look at saving money throughout the district, right? So we're adding all these positions. I don't know that I'm gonna wanna say our instructional coach, who is now working with new or experienced teachers, then on top gets a stipend.
No, no stipend.
Well, you said they would be a mentor.
No, but no, so.
So they wouldn't get the extra money. They would be
Exactly.
a mentor, it would be put into this, and then
Yes.
that mentor position, the stipend.
Eliminated.
Okay, so we're on the same page.
Yes,
So just to clarify, I wanna make sure I'm clear. So we would be looking at the positions that we offer from mentors that are stipends, and we'd be saying, what could this instructional coach take on at no additional cost? So we could potentially not eliminate all mentor positions, but some.
Yes, and let me just a point of clarity.
Okay.
So it's not like we would look at all the 20 new teachers, because not all 20 new teachers may need
Correct.
an instructional coach. But we may identify like a career changer who is also assigned a mentor. So now we're gonna say, oh, we're not paying a stipend for them to be mentored by this person because they're going to be assigned an instructional coach. We're not gonna pay the instructional coach a stipend because that's really part of the work that they facilitate. So they would just mentor them for the year, build their capacity, so we're saving a stipend because the instructional coach is already serving that capacity.
So we're saving a stipend because
Yes.
we're gonna look at the mentor stipends and say, we don't need 10, we may only need 5 or per se. Because then when you look at how much this costs, it's really not gonna cost that much because we're gonna be saving money by not needing as many stipend mentors.
That makes sense to me.
Is that? Okay, I just wanna make, so I'm hoping that when the mentor positions come and we approve those stipends, you're gonna let us know how many you're decreasing, because that's gonna be important to know.
I wouldn't know that though, right? Because we wouldn't know until the principal identifies the teachers that might need that extra, assistance with their teaching.
Right, but when you present them, you're gonna know how many we had last year
Yes,
versus how many
yes,
we,
that's
I'm not saying you're gonna tell me now, but when we approve them in the future, you're gonna be like, hey, the high school needed 10 last year, we only need 4 this year, I just want you to know.
Correct.
That's gonna be information that we're gonna wanna have. Mr. Cormier, would you have that
I just don't think the mentoring, once you hire this, that's what
You
this
need
person.
mentoring either.
You don't need a mentoring position, I don't think so. If you're gonna hire this person, that's what they're there for, to mentor and to coach, I think at the same time. I don't see a need for both.
You can
Maybe that's
put your
me.
hands down, we're gonna come around.
That's just me, I don't think we need both.
Do you see what he's saying? Mr. White?
How many instructional coach positions are you looking for?
I'm looking for 3 for the 6 elementary schools, 1 for high school, 1 for middle school.
Okay. I think that's a lot for them to take on if there's no mentors, based on the number of staff that we have.
I agree.
So I think we definitely need to continue the mentorship program, because I believe, just the number of staff that we have at the high school for one instructional coach to potentially mentor all of those people, they're not gonna get the best out of the instructional coach, and then in turn, the mentorship program isn't gonna be solid.
I'm not saying every all, I'm saying there should be some. Mrs. Wigan, did you have any?
It's already been said.
Oh, okay, thank you. Anybody else on the committee? Okay. Mr. Kamir?
Without me having to dig up the contract, do we have a certain number of, the mentorship is in the contract, the stipend portion is contractual?
And I don't remember the amount though, I don't know, yeah.
Do we have a number of positions allowed that?
It's always, it's new teachers, so we have to provide mentors to the new teachers. So every year might be different, it might fluctuate. So
Okay, so if we don't have any new teachers this year, we don't have any mentors getting stipends?
That is correct. Well, it also depends, right? So each state has a requirement, whether it's 1 to 3 years to be mentored. For example, Massachusetts, they have to be mentored for 3 years. The stipend diminishes each year because the touch points are less. So here, if we didn't have any new teachers and they were, let's say, veteran teachers, we would not need mentors.
Does that answer your question? All right, Mr. Bellows?
Thank you. Annie, do you see this position as sort of being part of a vision that allows for vertical staff mobility as part of like our overall retention and growth?
100%, yes. When you build teachers' capacities and they feel fulfilled in the work that they facilitate, they want to stay because they feel fulfilled.
And then I do understand, I think I understand sort of the concern about is there some redundancy with an instructional coach versus a mentor? But I do think different new staff need different things. I know in my own experience, I moved to a school and I was already relatively experienced. I did need a mentor though, like I didn't understand the school, I didn't understand how to get things done within that structure. I didn't necessarily need the instructional support, but I needed somebody who had been around that, in that context, that could just support me a little bit. And so I think there's still a value for both, depending on the needs of the staff that you're talking about. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. McGowan.
Yeah, so as someone who was a mentee and a mentor in the school district, like, there may be a little, like, crossover with the responsibilities, but the mentor is really, to Nick's point, you know, I mentored a very highly experienced educator, but it was, you know, here's the way we do things at the school, you know, this is how we use Infinite Campus, this is, like, it was more of, like, the organization and functions. I was a mentor to a newer teacher, and it was all more of like, this is our specific curriculum, like really helping get through the curriculum more so. So I mean, I hope we don't eliminate too many mentors. I see like being fiscally responsible, but I also look as they're kind of different responsibilities.
Do we ask new teachers what they think, of their mentor, like it's a stipend position. Do we ask new teachers, like, did you get a lot out of your mentor? Because I feel like it's one of those positions that you could just get paid for and not really do a lot. Like, you could have a really good mentor that really needs good money, that deserves it, but then you could have a mentor that's like, yeah, bathroom's down there, good luck. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, are we evaluating that mentor? Like, when's the last time we talked to new hires and said, how's your mentor doing? How many times have they contacted you? Is it worth the money that they're getting paid? Because I would assume that they have to make up, they can't double dip. So they have to make up that mentoring hours after, like, who's charting that?
We have, so that's a great question. We have teacher leaders who facilitate our mentoring program really under the direction of our curriculum coordinators. I don't know, I will find out if they survey our new teachers at the end of every year to get their feedback. I know they do that for new staff orientation, but I don't have an answer for that, but I can get that for you.
Yeah, and even for like the budget purposes, like what are they getting for a stipend? How many hours are they actually mentoring? I want to make sure that, you know what I mean, like if we're really paying for this, we're getting the most, and maybe we find out that they deserve to have more, like who really knows? But I feel like that's important, because if you're not checking in on your mentors, if you don't have a good mentor but you're getting a stipend, why are we paying you?
Right. And just to add, we're required by the state to have mentors for our new teachers. Let's give a piece to.
Yeah, but I want to make sure they're good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're not by any stretch, but I feel it's important. Okay, does anybody want to make a motion? Mr. Pappas?
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, Mrs. Keynes.
Yep, I know, you went by me and.
I read
No,
by
no,
you.
No, I know, I had my chance, I didn't
You
take
did,
it
but
then,
I'll
I
give you
had
a second chance.
How do we pick the mentors?
Out of a hat.
That's my fear.
So the mentor leaders work with our administration and with staff, so they're volunteers, but the teacher leaders who facilitate the mentoring program work with our administration to identify quality mentors, people they want to be mentoring our teachers.
I don't like that answer. I mean, maybe it's true, but I don't like that answer. Thank you.
Are just teacher leaders who then have mentors? Like now I question teacher leaders, but we're way late in the game, so I don't care, but.
We're revamping it.
Yeah,
We've
okay.
talked about it, and we've talked to Katie Q, who's actually gonna lead the work on the revamping.
Yeah.
Because it's really a retention strategy, right? So revamping the mentoring and induction program and then really increasing it, not just the first year, but potentially 2 to 3 years, right?
So how long have we had mentors?
We're
Several years?
required by law to have, it's the Department of,
So they're doing a great job because our test scores aren't going up. So what do I think about that? I mean, I'm having a real problem here with wondering why we're hiring these people to do all these things and things don't change in the instruction or the results, I guess. It really bothers me deeply. So anyway.
I think we have a new superintendent who's looking at raising those, and I think these positions that she has, I don't want to speak for you, I think these positions she has is what she's saying to the board to say, when we help and hire a new position to do some of those admin work, the teachers are to be able to focus more on the academics, and hopefully that's gonna increase the test scores. Did I say that correctly?
That's correct.
I want that in the other program here,
Well, we get it right.
4 passes back, but not on this one.
But hopefully, we have a new superintendent, and we have to give her the
Okay.
opportunity to do great things. Mr. Pappas?
I'm good.
Mr. Cusimano?
So we're using entitlement grants for this, correct?
Correct, except for one of the,
Yeah, except for the
Right.
one for the dual.
Right.
So my question is wherever we use this money in the past, are we gonna hurt what we're taking that money from to put these in? Because entitlement grants, just doing a little bit of research, is based off of the poverty level.
so.
Poverty level set by New Hampshire with new property tax coming out and a new median income, which naturally with what I've seen so far in the assessment and with what I've sent you and Title I being cut and grants, which means entitlement grants are gonna be going down, not stay at the level. And I still would have to do more research because I'm just diving into it. I don't wanna hurt what we already have to put something in place, which I think is good to keep retention. But we're, almost seems like we're robbing from one to pay for the other. What are we hurting?
I think that's a great question for finance.
I actually have an answer for Member Cusimano.
In finance? No, I'm just kidding, go ahead.
So, what I've been learning, taking a deep dive in grants, we have not been very strategic, right? So it's almost, I equate it to kind of like, throwing spaghetti at the wall and expecting it to stick.
It does if it's cooked well.
So I'm looking at this like, I don't want to continue doing what we've done in the past because clearly it hasn't worked. So we have to try something different, and that's where I'm going. We've tried a variety of things. Our outcomes are not good. Our opportunity gaps, our gaps are widening. Our graduation rate is not where it needs to be. We are 3 times of our dropout rate is 3 times higher than the state, and it's unacceptable. So we have to try something different. We have to think outside the box.
Correct. And again, I think it's important to discuss this at finance.
I haven't said anything in a while.
Yeah, I know, it was nice. Mr. Downs?
So, I agree, sending these to finance make our meeting nice and long, but, going off like what the superintendent said, a lot of these new positions are only gonna benefit our district to help raise those test scores. So that in the end, it looks like, what are we doing with all these positions? And of course, we need to ask questions, it's good that we're asking questions, but just in the end, this is what's eventually gonna raise our test scores.
Or at
It's
least
just
we
gonna
hope,
take time. Yes.
right? Like, I'm hoping that it's gonna, that this is, you're saying, this is what I need to increase. We're telling you what we wanted. We've told you this since when we interviewed you. Now you're saying, okay, if this is what you want, this is what I need. So it's that work in progress that we have to go back and forth. So just know, in 2 years' time, if these aren't increasing, we're gonna go back and be like, hey, we gave you what you wanted and all the tools. So I think it's just that accountability piece, but if we don't give you what you're asking for, and then we complain that we don't have these higher test scores, it's just difficult. Mrs. Wiggin, your hand is up.
I make a motion that we send instructions.
She took
To finance.
We're fine with that.
Second.
So motion by Mrs. Wiggin, second by Mr. White. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, now we are, there was one opposed. There was one opposed. It was Mrs. Keynes.
And that was instructional coach?
Yes.
Yeah, I deleted it, so I'm hoping that's what it was. That's what it was? Okay. So now we are on to wellness instructor.
So the wellness instructor, essentially, we want to have wellness rooms in all of our schools. Essentially what that is, when we have a student that perhaps is dysregulated, whether in the hallway or in the classroom, they have a space, right? So the culture and climate assistant are the ones that, they're up and down the halls, they're building positive relationships with the kiddos, they're again incentivizing students for positive behavior, and then they have this kiddo, they take a walk, they go to the wellness room with the wellness educator. With it, wellness educator can then work with the student for coping strategies, to build their social emotional competencies, right? To really strengthen those so that they can be much more self-aware. They're able to self-regulate on their own independently. That's the goal. So that when that occurs in the classroom and they feel like they're getting escalated, they're more self-aware and they have these coping strategies. So it's really more of a proactive strategy. to ensure that these kiddos can stay in the classroom, they can learn to self-regulate, and then they can access the curriculum and stay with their peers in the classroom.
Sandy, do you have any questions? Okay, Mr. Pappas?
How many of these positions are you looking to hire?
One for each school.
One for each school?
Yes.
So 9. Mr. Cormier?
It seems like a duplicate of a couple of these other things. It's just a different type of thing to me. It just seems like it's the same as culture, but it just seems a duplication, that's all.
I can certainly respond to that if you like. So the wellness teacher is actually a certified teacher. It could be a certified teacher, or it could be a guidance counselor. The culture and climate specialist is, it could be a para-educator. These are the folks that go around, they are doing the low incident reports, they may be taking walks with students and then transporting them to the wellness room, or the wellness instructor, that's the certified teacher, can really work with the student.
Mrs. Wiggins, did you have a question?
So the wellness instructor is focusing more on behaviors.
Correct.
So, okay, so I kind of agree with Mr. Cormier. I just literally said we were going to speak to schools but my concern is, so required qualifications, bachelor's level and relevant field. What is a relevant field?
Yes, and I purposely did that because we're either looking for a guidance counselor or could be a health teacher, it could be a certified teacher, right? Someone that really can help strengthen the student's social emotional competencies. So typically it could be a school counselor that could serve in that capacity, but there are also teachers that are very good at that. So I don't want to limit us to either a teacher, a certified teacher, or to a school counselor. And I'm happy to change that description to include both of those.
Well, I think my concern is if they're going to be, so they're going to be instructing, they're going to be a wellness instructor, I would want to know, I don't know that I would say a guidance counselor is an instructional, or am I wrong? Is a guidance counselor an instructor? Because that's the title of this, is a wellness instructor. So that's my first concern. My second one is experience with restorative practices. What kind of experience are we looking for? Or do they have to take a class?
So I'm looking for them to definitely have a general understanding of restorative practices, right? Because if we have a student that is escalated in the classroom, for example, and because of the dysregulation might have been throwing things around the classroom, right? We have to be able to reshape that behavior. He or she has to repair that harm. So they do have to have a general understanding of what restorative practices are in order to work with the student so that they can repair the harm.
How many people do we have right now in our classrooms or in our schools that are experienced with restorative practices? I feel like not a lot.
Actually, I have Ms. Fiery here who could probably speak to that if you may. She's our Director of Positive Youth Development.
So I would say that we're working on a lot of professional development to grow the capacity of all our teachers when it comes to restorative thinking, a trauma-informed approach. So if we're asking if we have any individuals who are like certified and have been through this training or that, or you know, training others, not necessarily, but we're establishing common languages through staff development and through some of these programs. And I think if that were a requirement of this position, it would be along the same lines that we're looking for somebody who's on the same page with the principles of restorative practice, not necessarily that they're certified or have just only that toolbox.
Yeah, we're not looking to have these instructors teaching, right? Be certified to teach restorative practices, but just to have the general knowledge of restorative practices and be able to engage in that practice.
But I feel like the question of how many staff members do we have right now that are experienced with restorative practices, I don't feel like I got that answer.
And I don't think there's anyone that's certified other than
Yeah, and you didn't get the answer.
Sorry.
No, not at all. Because I don't think that we have anyone that we could automatically say, yes, they're super well versed in this, that we know of. Like, we might have some educators who have taken it upon themselves to go grow their capacity in this area and we're just not aware of, but as a district, I wouldn't feel comfortable saying that we have people in place that are, you know, well equipped in that area. But it is a focus of ours, so I think we're trying to pour resources into growing that. But to answer your question simply, I wouldn't say we.
It's a new focus, by the way. So in the past, we have not been engaging in restorative practices, even though we're mandated to engage in those practices with graduated sanctions. So we're going slow to go fast, right? Because we don't wanna do to people, we wanna do with people, so it's gonna take some time.
And then 3 and 4, it confuses me, but then successful advocate for families. That's a really difficult one to say that you're gonna advocate for families, but yet you're a staff member for the district. I don't know how you advocate, required qualifications, successful advocate for families. What, can you explain that one? Because I don't understand
Can you tell
that.
me where you're looking?
So I'm looking at wellness instructor.
Job description, just.
Oh, yes, I see it.
Required qualification.
So probably the better word is really engaging with families authentically. You know, we're partners in education, right? And so it's really the work of the parent and the family. So potentially rewording that to be that we have to make sure that we are authentically engaging with families, especially our high needs children, because we're not seeing those behaviors alone. They're experiencing these behaviors at home too. So working with families to make sure that we have that shared language and that they're helping us as well.
That's not, yeah, so that, I feel like that needs to change, because when I look at successful advocate for families, I look at somebody, and I'm just gonna use the specialty, like a parent information center advocate, and they're advocating specifically for a student. So when you say advocating for families, it looks as though they're taking their role outside of the district. They're now stepping into the family role, and they're now advocating on behalf of the family. So it just seems as though that's needs to be changed. But I am also concerned with what Mr. Cormier said, that it is kind of a little bit of a duplicate with, what was the other one that we were talking about? Was it the culture and climate specialist? Is that the one that we were?
Yeah, so I can actually explain, I can speak to that if you'd like. So I'll take, it could be any school, let's just call it Jenny Jones School, I don't want to pinpoint a school. School, maybe a high need school, which may have some children, not just one child, but several child, that are struggling to regulate. So you have a culture and climate specialist. Let's say we don't have a wellness instructor. One or the other. Let's start with, we don't have a wellness instructor, we have a culture and climate specialist, right? We have this culture and climate specialist and we have a wellness room. The culture and climate specialist takes the child, they may not have the skills, but we can build those skills, right, as far as restorative practices and helping them build the social emotional competencies of the child. Takes the child, goes to the wellness room, working with the child, but guess what? We have another dysregulated child, but now this culture and climate specialist is working in the wellness room with this one student. The 1 or 2 in the school that could be a high need school, they're not being addressed, right? They're still in the classroom. And so the purpose of having a culture and climate specialist is that it's boots on the ground, in the hallways, making sure that they have the students. If they need to be pulled out of class for any reason, they take the walk, they take them to the wellness room. It's a warm-up to the wellness instructor, and then they can come back and then service other classrooms that may have a need.
I get it, it still sounds duplicate, sorry, Mr. Kuzma.
So is this paid out of the general fund?
None of them are. Jewel Fund, obviously one of them, yeah.
So again, I'm gonna agree with Dave. You have, so far tonight, at least 4 positions that deal with families, that advocate on the child, that overlap. So at what point are they overlapping to talk to the principal? Are the parents getting 4 different calls from 4 different people? Do they have a hierarchy? Are they going to the special needs department and the special needs is gonna call? There's just a lot of this overlapping in positions to where we could probably find people that we already have in place, school counselors. To me, by the definition of a school counselor, this kind of overlaps into that position. It seems like we almost have too much overlapping, and again, that's what I worry about. We have too much overlapping and spending money where it could be spent in other places.
Can you tell us what the pay is to original pay on this?
It's a teacher contract. The teacher contract, for the wellness instructor?
Okay, sorry. Mr. Cleary, you're good? Mr. Bellows?
We spent a lot of time talking about a school earlier this year where I think if we had the combination of the culture and climate specialists and the wellness instructors, that would have addressed a lot of the needs of the school, if you know the school that I'm talking about. The root of the issues there was you have a classroom teacher who's trying to teach 20 kids and one or maybe sometimes more kids, their needs are not being met and it's impacting the entire class. And the problem was that the school was not equipped to take that kid off of the instructor's hands so they could get back to teaching. And then, once they take them off their hands, like they've resolved that problem in the classroom, but now there's instruction that that kid needs to receive on how to regulate. And I think there is overlap, there's absolutely overlap, but in some cases, overlap is unavoidable in an organism like a school. There's gonna be a little bit of like, you do this, but I'm not sure if this is a fair way to describe this, but to me, the wellness instructor is sort of like the teacher, and the climate specialists are sort of like the paraeducators that support the work that that teacher's doing with those kids. And again, you know, I made the point, but I think of these positions, had they been in place at the school that we were talking about earlier this year, I'm not sure we would have been having some of those conversations.
So, I think, my personal opinion is, I think it's needed. I think we also want to give you the tools, so I want you to succeed. I don't know that we need it in some of the smaller schools. Are we opposed to saying, let's put it in some of our targeted schools, and then you can produce those out? Like, so some of our smaller schools that have less than 100 kids, I don't know that they need it, and I don't know that that's a cost that we want to do the district, but a school that has 300, like, students, maybe we hire for, so you're looking at the middle school and high school, correct?
Right.
And then could we, what are there 3 elementary schools that we could look at in Target and say, let's look at them? Because I think if one person's responsible for a 350, like, student building, I don't know that we need one for an 85 building, you know what I mean? Like, maybe we look at it and say, we're gonna have one that goes back and forth, or we're gonna target these 3, and then we're gonna come back to the board and say, all right, this is the decrease in behaviors, this is the decrease, this is the increase in our, like, academics, because now teachers are able to actually teach. Would you be opposed to doing that so that we can start that out?
I have 3 already that would be high needs that I would do for the 3 elementary schools, and we would still need it for the middle school. High school already has their safety team, so it's essentially serving the same purpose.
So if we were to approve 4, would this committee feel comfortable? So 1 at the middle school and then 3 targeted high schools that you would then, I mean, and you could divide it up if you really wanted to, or elementary. Would this committee feel comfortable with that, or is there any concern there?
Point of order, you're not designating positions, the number of positions though.
She's telling us she wants 7, so we're saying we don't want to approve all 7.
You're approving the job description, not the number of people.
Right, but she's gonna post it, so we wanna make sure that we let her know how
We're
many
only
we would.
posting 1.
Right, but I'm saying, we wanna let her know, don't hire 7.
I don't know if this committee has a
Oh, that's a finance thing?
I-
Great.
I think that's. Just a point of clarity, this committee approves the job description. Basically,
Finance
if she,
gives her the money, how
she's
much
po,
money?
yeah, she's
Finance
posting
gives
it
her
to
how much
one.
money?
Okay, so I think we let it go to the board, to finance, we would make the motion to go to finance, but we would recommend
So, yeah, I
4.
bring, and then she would bring forward
That's
how
right.
much, the
And
money.
how I'm paying,
The money,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Say that again,
Go ahead.
we were talking.
Oh,
Mrs. Wiggins?
I was gonna make a motion to send the wellness instructor to the finance.
Second.
Oh, so, motion by Mrs. Wiggins, seconded by Mrs. Keens, discussion, Mr. Pappas?
I think what we need to do is approve the job description and send it to finance.
Okay, so we're sending it to finance, are you willing to amend your motion to say we approve the, okay. And Mrs. Keens, are you fine with the amendment? Yeah? Yeah. So we're approving the job description and sending it to finance?
Okay.
Yeah. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
yes, no, I'm a no.
I get it. So there was one no, Mr. Cormier. No, listen, you have a right to say no. Any other? Mr. Downs? Okay, any motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pappas, second by Mrs. Wigan.
Aye.
Oh, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.